You better be happy, otherwise you don't deserve your seamless cheating skills. If the Oscars didn't give you a golden statue, don't worry, I can make you a paper one. I was staring at my naked boyfriend and the woman he was with. I grabbed my high heel and smashed it down hard. But that scumbag pushed me, and everything went black. My soul literally left my body. I was floating in the air, watching myself down there. Great. I came here saying I wouldn't get angry, and I literally died from anger. The next second, some weird force yanked me into a skinny, weak body. Meow. Meow. Don't scare mommy. Open your eyes, please. Big sister, wake up. Don't scare Nyonyo and Daudu. Crying filled a rundown courtyard. I slowly opened my eyes and found myself lying in the arms of two tiny girls with little bun hairstyles. They were so thin, tears streaming down their faces non-stop. Big sister, if you don't want to go, Nyonyo will go instead. I just want you alive. Daudu can go too. Then I heard shouting nearby. I'm telling you, that girl is marrying Landlord Lin whether she wants to or not. Even if she dies, send the body over. I already took his 100 silver taels. If you think I'm giving that money back, dream on. That was an old woman with a mean, fleshy face, my grandmother in this world, Li Chunhua. Standing in front of her was a woman covered in patched-up clothes, my mother in this life, Yunyang. I quickly pieced everything together. I had transmigrated into a farming novel I'd been reading. My name here was Su Chonghe, nicknamed Miao. I was only 15 years old. My mother was defending me fiercely. She's only 15. She hasn't even come of age. She's your granddaughter too. How can you be so heartless? The old hag shot back that Landlord Lin's family was wealthy, with dozens of acres of farmland, and marrying into that family would be a blessing. But everyone knew the truth. He wanted to buy me as a concubine. 100 silver taels for a 15-year-old girl. My mother listed all the ways the old woman had played favorites. She secretly boiled eggs for my uncle's 3 kids, but never for us. During holidays, she gave those kids 30 copper coins each, but only 10 total for the 3 of us sisters combined. Every time she went to the market, she'd sneak treats back for the oldest son's family. Our family, my father Suwen, my mother Yunyang, me, and my 2 little sisters Jiaoer and Tiana, we were nothing but cash cows and free labor to them. My father worked like a slave, my mother served as an unpaid maid, and every penny my parents earned went to the family pot. We couldn't even afford decent clothes. Meanwhile, my uncle's family ate and drank on our dime because they were investing in my cousin Su Rue's studies so he could pass the imperial exams. That kid was dumb as a rock, but the whole family believed he was destined to become an official. The original me in this body had died, pushed by the old woman during an argument, hit her head on a stone table. And now this hag was trying to guilt-trip my mother into accepting the deal. My blood was boiling. I jumped to my feet. Mom, why are you wasting your breath on this old hag? From the very beginning, she's only seen our family as a money tree. Dad's her free labor, you're her free maid, and we're just tools for making cash. What kind of grandmother sells her own granddaughter? The old woman raised a stick, ready to beat my mother. She was only doing this because my father wasn't home. You hit my mom, and I'll hit you right back. I grabbed a stick and pointed it straight at her face. Here's how this goes. Either you return that 100 taels to Landlord Lin today, or we split the family. Pick one. The old woman's face twisted. She jabbed her finger at my mother and screamed insults. Then she swung at my mom. But I'm not the original girl anymore. I've never been someone who takes a loss lying down. I grabbed my stick and charged straight at her. I'm 100 pounds of pure stubbornness. Nobody's pushing me around. I stepped in front of my mother and pointed my stick right at that disgusting old woman. 8 years of studying. If your precious grandson had any talent, he'd be top scholar by now. But Su Rue can't even pass the basic exam. Funding him is worse than raising a pig. At least a pig would be useful by now. Grandma Li Chunhua loved that grandson more than anything. Hearing me trash-talk him made her face twist with rage. She screamed at me to shut up and marry whoever she told me to marry, or she'd rip my mouth apart. But since she couldn't handle me, she turned on my mom instead. 100 silver taels. Do you know how long our family would have to work to earn that? Landlord Lin is rich. She'd eat well and live easy for the rest of her life. My uncle's wife, Hee stood behind the old woman smirking, throwing in little comments to back her up. I almost laughed. If Landlord Lin was really so great, why didn't they send their own daughter Su Qing? Everyone within 10 villages knew that old man was over 60, ugly, violent, and had disgusting habits. Every concubine he'd taken before ended up miserable. Since Andy thinks it's such a wonderful match, why not give the opportunity to Su Qing? Xianyang's face changed instantly. How dare you compare? My Qing is precious. She's destined to be a proper lady. Marrying her off to that old thing? You've got nerve even suggesting it. So, you do know he's an old creep. I grinned. Interesting. You're telling me it's a great match, but your own daughter won't go. And you're not even ashamed of the lie, Su Qing herself blurted out from behind her mother, nearly crying. I'm not going to the Lin house. Going there is a death sentence. Xianyang kicked her daughter in the shin and hissed to her to shut up and go back inside to eat her sunflower seeds. The old woman was so furious she swung her stick at my head, going full force. She was genuinely trying to hurt me.
I dodged.
I'm not the original girl. She'd only talk tough, but never fight back. My real mom taught me that if someone hits you, you hit them right back. I'm a modern person. No way I'm letting some ancient bully push me around. I swung my stick right back at her. Try hitting me. I dare you. I'll fight you to the end. She screamed she'd beat me to death and drag my corpse to the Lin estate if she had to. My mother rushed in to block the blow, and the stick cracked right across her head. Blood started running down her face from her eyebrow. Seeing that made my chest burn. Xianyang tried to grab my stick away from me. She pulled hard, so I suddenly let go. She went flying backward and crashed flat on her back like a flipped turtle. Humiliating. She scrambled up screaming she'd kill me, but my little sisters Nyonyo and Daodu grabbed her legs and bit down hard.
She howled in pain.
Su Qing and Su Rui ran out from the house where they'd been snacking. Su Rui grabbed little Daodu by the collar and threw her to the ground. You little brat, biting my mother? I'll beat you to death. Before he could do anything else, I cracked my stick across his skull. Touch my sister again, and see what happens. I pulled Daodu up from the ground. The poor little thing was hurting so bad, but she held back every single tear. That broke my heart. Then Su Rui tried a different approach, the fake nice guy routine. Meow, look at our family situation. It's hard to find a good husband at your age. If you wait too long, nobody will want you. I almost choked laughing.
I'm 15.
In modern terms, I'm still a minor. Your brain must be rotted from all that studying. Your sister is 2 years older than me. Since you think this marriage is so wonderful, give it to her. My mother pressed her hand against her bleeding head and added, That's right. If it's such a great match, send Su Qing. My Hemiao isn't cut out for that kind of luxury. Xianyang sneered at my mother. My Qing is meant to be an official's wife someday. How dare you mud-legged peasants compare yourselves to her? Then Grandma Li Chanhua lost her patience completely. Forget talking, just tie the girl up and send her to Landlord Lin. Once it's done, she can't undo it. She gave Su Rui a look, and they were actually about to tie me up. Right at that moment, the front gate opened. My father, Su Wen, walked in carrying 2 wild rabbits he'd caught in the mountains. He'd been gone a few days because of the heavy snow. He was planning to use the rabbit fur to make scarves for us 3 sisters. But the second he stepped through that door, he saw his wife and children beaten and bleeding. And they were trying to tie me up to ship me off to some old man. His face changed instantly. Mother, what's going on here? Grandma Li flinched at his tone. She quickly let go of me and put on a fake smile. Oh, good, you're back. Your daughter has gone crazy. Look what she did to your sister-in-law. Xianyang jumped in right away, adding fuel to the fire. Yes, brother. Your wild daughter has no manners. She cursed at us and hit me. Mother found her a wonderful match, generous bride price and everything, but she refused and caused all this chaos. My father pulled me behind him and looked down at my face. My hair was a mess. I had blood on my forehead. Tears started pouring down my face, not because I'm weak, but because for the first time since arriving in this world, I felt like I had someone to lean on. Dad, it's not what they're saying. Grandma sold me to landlord Lin from the next village, the one who's had 11 concubines and beat some of them to death. They were trying to tie me up and drag me there. When Mom tried to stop them, they cracked her head open. My 2 little sisters ran over crying too.
Daddy.
They hit us. My father's eyes went red when he saw the blood on all of us. His heart was breaking. He could handle being worked to the bone all these years. But selling his daughter? That was the line. Mother, Hmiao doesn't want this. I don't agree to this marriage. Grandma Li exploded. You don't agree? I already took the bride price. Then give it back. My daughter is not marrying that old man. Just then, Grandpa Su Benfin came back from working in the fields. He actually sided with us at first. The girl hasn't even come of age yet. What's the rush? Just return the money. But Grandma Li shot that down fast. Return 100 taels? Do you know how many mouths we have to feed? The mountains are snowed in. We can't hunt. What are we supposed to eat this winter? And your grandson's tutor needs paying too. Grandpa sighed and caved, just like that. He turned to my father. Your mother has a point. Su Rui's studies need funding, and we need money for the winter. Why don't you and Yunyang talk it over and pick a date to send to Miao? I thought this old man had some conscience, but he was just playing the same game. The whole family was in on it together, scheming against us. Xunyang grinned and chimed in. That's right. Girls can't stay home forever. It really is a good match. My father laughed bitterly. All these years he'd worked himself half to death for this family. He went out early, came home late, and handed over every coin he earned. And this was how they repaid him. Since big sister-in-law thinks it's such a great match, her daughter Su Qing is older than my Hmiao. She should be the one getting married. He knew all about landlord Lin. Old, perverted, and every girl who married into that house ended up miserable. There was no way he'd push his daughter into that pit. I was sweating, honestly. I was terrified my new father would turn out to be one of those spineless, blindly obedient sons you read about in novels. Thank God, he wasn't stupid. He put his hand on my shoulder. Hmiao, don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, nobody touches a hair on your head. You took the money, you figure out who to send. My daughter isn't going. My mother finally relaxed too. As long as both our parents stood firm, nobody could force me. Xunyang panicked. If I didn't marry landlord Lin, what about that 100 taels? No way she was giving back money she already had her hands on. Think about it. Once landlord Lin dies, all that property goes to Hmiao. She'd be set for life. My mother's face went ice cold. If the Lin family is so great, marry your own daughter off. When the old man dies, the money's all yours. Besides, isn't it your son who needs to pass the exams? His own sister pitching in sounds perfectly fair. Xunyang couldn't say a word back. She looked at Grandma Li for backup. Before the old woman could open her mouth, my father spoke first. Let me make this crystal clear. If anyone dares force my daughter into this, we're splitting the family. Right here, right now. Grandma Li nearly choked on her own rage. She looked at Grandpa, then dropped to the ground and started wailing like the world was ending. You ungrateful son. If Hmiao doesn't marry, how is this family supposed to survive? You're pushing us to our deaths. My father clenched his fists so tight his knuckles went white. So, the only way this family survives is by selling my daughter? Big brother has 2 working hands. Su Rui studies all day, fine. But Su Lei is turning 14 after New Year. With this many men in the house, you're telling me the only option is to sell a girl? Your hearts aren't just crooked. They've shifted all the way to your foreheads. Grandpa's face went dark. Son, your mother had no choice. We need to eat. We need to drink. Su Rui's academy costs money. Su Lei is still young. How's he supposed to earn anything? My father almost laughed from the sheer unfairness. Still young? Dad, you say you don't play favorites, but I was working the fields at 10. By 12 I was hunting in the mountains to feed this whole family. I put up with it because I respected you and Mom. But look what you've done to us. You cracked Yunyang's head open. You beat Hmiao. You even hit my little Nyonyo and Daodu. All so your precious first family can keep living well. He pulled us all behind him. Mom, me, and my sisters. We won't celebrate New Year this year. We'll starve if we have to. But Hemiao is not marrying that man. Grandpa knew my father's temper. He was quiet and honest most days, but once he made up his mind, 10 oxen couldn't pull him back. Grandma Lee slapped her thighs in panic. You selfish, ungrateful boy. How can you even say that? My father stared her down. Selfish? Every single thing this family wore and ate came from his labor. Uncle Su Daniu was so lazy he couldn't even feed his own family, let alone fund a kid's education. And they had the nerve to call my father selfish?
Fine.
You say I'm selfish? Then starting today, I'll be selfish. Every penny this family spent on the first household's education, clothes, and food all these years. Pay it all back to me. Grandma Lee's face changed completely. She grabbed Grandpa's sleeve in a panic. My father's family was the entire workforce of this household. If they really pushed us away, the first household was finished. And she'd already been calculating. One daughter could be sold for 100 taels. My father had 3 daughters. That was 300 taels of potential income. No way she was letting that fat piece of meat escape. Grandpa took a long drag on his pipe and looked at my father with a worn-out expression. Son, I'm not trying to force you, but with the mountain snowed in, we don't know when it'll clear. We have no money. If Hemiao doesn't marry, the whole family might starve. You don't want that, right? And once Su Rui passes the exam, our whole family's taxes get waived. Landlord Lin is a bit older, sure, but at least she'd have food on the table. My mother shook her head desperately, tugging on my father's sleeve. She'd rather starve than send me to that house. I grabbed his other sleeve and poked my head out. If Su Rui had any talent, he would have passed years ago. Do you even know how much money you've spent on him? Why not tell him to take 1 year off and wait until the disaster passes? That alone would save enough to get us through winter. Xionyang panicked the second she heard that. This wasn't about education. This was about 100 silver taels. With that money, they could buy a house in town and arrange good marriages for her 3 precious children. She couldn't let my father's family talk the old man out of it. She elbowed Su Rui, who stumbled forward with his rehearsed speech. Grandpa, Grandma, I've studied hard this year. Mom even got my fortune read at the temple. The monk said I'll definitely pass. Nobody in this village will look down on us again. He glared at me. That 100 taels was already in Grandma's hands, which meant it belonged to his family now. He was 18 and needed that money for his own bride price. No way he was letting it slip away. And, besides, girls grow up and get married anyway. She's marrying a landlord. That's a good life, Xionyang added with a smirk. Who knows? Maybe Landlord Lin will kick the bucket soon. My father's anger flared. Sister-in-law, easy for you to say when it's not your daughter. If the Lin family is so wonderful, send Su Qing. She couldn't answer that. No matter what any of you say, my father declared, I don't agree to this marriage. Mother, you're returning that bride price tomorrow. Grandma Lee's face shook with rage. This is decided. Come grab this girl and send her to the Lin estate. Now, she was done arguing. The money was in her pocket, and she had no intention of giving it back. Uncle's family moved toward me. My father snatched up a broom and stood between them and us. With me standing here, I dare anyone to try. My mother picked up a stick, tears running down her face, and shielded me from behind. Husband, these people don't see us as family. Why should we keep living under the same roof? Let's split the family. Grandma Lee tried to slap my mother. You don't get a say in this household. Then she played her trump card. The threat she thought would break us. Fine, split if you want. But I'm keeping that 100 taels. You're not marrying off your daughter? Then figure out the money yourselves. Oh, and this house? You get nothing. Not a single room. She thought that would scare us into giving in. She thought we'd buckle and hand me over. She was dead wrong. My father didn't even hesitate.
Deal.
We take nothing. From this day forward, I, Su Wen, have nothing to do with any of you, ever again. And about that bride price, my father said through clenched teeth, you took it so you deal with it. Either return it or marry Su Qing off instead. My family is nobody's scapegoat. Grandma Lee looked ready to explode. Grandpa's hands shook so bad he could barely hold his pipe. We're all family. Why make things so ugly? He snapped. If Su Rue passes the exam, your family benefits too. I let out a cold laugh. I'd heard that line so many times my ears had calluses. If you'd spent that money on my dad instead, he'd probably be a ranked scholar by now. Betting on Su Rue is like hanging a curtain on a wall painting. There's no door there. All these years, my mother had even pawned her own dowry to fund Su Rue's studies. Year after year, he failed. They kept painting big dreams, but nobody believed them anymore. And now that they'd squeezed everything else dry, they'd set their eyes on me. My father looked at us, my mother and 3 sisters. Our faces were yellow and thin, not a scrap of meat on our bones. Our clothes were nothing but patches sewn on patches. Then he looked at the first household. Rosy cheeks, well-fed bodies, dressed in this year's fashionable red silk. Every grain of rice they ate, and every thread they wore came from our sweat and blood. Everything our family had sacrificed turned out to be a joke. All these years I woke before dawn and came home after dark to support your family's education. Did I ever complain once? And now you want to sell my daughter for them? Do you people even have a conscience? Grandpa fired back that Su Rue was the root of the Su family, the only male heir who could carry on the name and bring glory. He said daughters would all marry out eventually, and none of them would look after my father in old age. Su Rue jumped in with his fake sincerity. Uncle, I'm your real support. When you die, I'm the one who'll wear mourning clothes and carry your coffin. The girls can't do that. We're family. You should help me. Grandpa nodded along approvingly. See how sensible the first household's children are? If only your Hemiao were half as thoughtful. Su Rue is the true bloodline of this family. Listen to me. Just send the girl. My father laughed bitterly. Sensible? What exactly are they sensible about? Being lazy? Stealing chickens? I see right through this family. I glared at Grandpa. My dad's right. We've been tricked into being your slaves for years. Is it going to kill Su Rue to skip 1 year of exams? Xionyang couldn't take it anymore. She tugged Grandma's sleeve. Look at this girl cursing your grandson. So young, and already so vicious. She deserves to be married off. My father's eyes turned sharp. My daughter is kind and caring. She's looked after this family since she was small. But the moment we refused to be taken advantage of, we're the villains? You favored the first household and the youngest sister our entire lives, and I accepted it. But today you're trying to sell my child for a fool's education. Where's your conscience? Grandma Lee smiled warmly at Su Rue and patted his hand. Of course Grandma believes in you. Our Su Rue will definitely pass and become a great official. Then she turned cold and looked at us.
Fine.
You want to split the family? Go ahead. But the bride price stays with me. You get no house. Nothing. And let me tell you this. When Su Rue becomes a big official someday, even if you crawl back on your knees begging, we won't take you back. Think carefully. I already knew what kind of people they were. Getting money back from them was harder than climbing to heaven. They'd probably already spent a chunk of it buying new clothes for the first household.
Fine, I said. Split.
We take nothing. But you return that money to landlord Lin. My father's words were tough, but I could see the worry in his eyes. The mountains were buried in snow. It was freezing cold outside. Hunting was nearly impossible. Even with all his pride, he had no idea how he was going to feed us. He wrapped his arms around all of us, Mom, me, and my 2 sisters. His face was full of pain and guilt. All these years, his parents only had eyes for the first household. They'd sneak them the good food, the good clothes. He'd never once complained. But scheming against his children, that was the final straw. His heart had turned to ash. He looked at my mother with eyes full of apology.
Yunyang, I'm sorry.
If I were more capable, you wouldn't have to suffer like this. My mother's eyes were red, but she held steady. Don't say that. I've never regretted marrying you. As long as our family is together, I'm not afraid of anything, not even death. Let's go. We're never coming back to this house. Grandma Lee watched us huddled together crying and let out a cold snort. She knew what splitting the family in the dead of winter meant. It could kill us. Good. Let us go out there and suffer. When we came crawling back, we'd have no say in anything. Get out. Hurry up and get out. You think you're tough enough to split off on your own? Let's see how you die out there. My father knelt down and quietly asked my sisters, "Are you afraid of going hungry?" All three of us shook our heads. "We're not scared, Daddy. We can dig for wild vegetables in the snow and break ice to catch fish. I can embroider flowers and sell them in town. As long as we're with you and Mommy, we'll be happy." Grandpa squatted on the ground smoking his pipe, his wrinkled face dark as storm clouds. "Think carefully, son. Once you split off, you're no longer part of the Sioux family. When Sioux Rue passes his exams, you get nothing. And if you come crawling back later, the door will be shut." His words sounded like advice, but it was a threat. The message was clear: leave and you lose everything. You've got nothing but a nest of daughters. You'll never rise above this. Just kneel before your mother, apologize, and marry him off. We'll forget this whole thing and live as one happy family. Every pair of eyes in my family turned to my father. I was terrified he'd fold at the last second.
He didn't.
So, what if I don't have sons? My daughters are obedient and kind. They're better than your two idiots any day. You want nothing to do with us?
Fine.
From now on, we go our separate ways. My heart finally unclenched. I looked straight at Grandpa's family. Sioux Rue passing the exam? That's harder than climbing to heaven. If my dad had been the one studying, he'd already be a top scholar. Grandma Lee actually laughed at that. My father was already 32. She thought it was a joke. And if he was studying, who would do all the work? "That's none of your concern," I said. Right then, something happened inside my head.
Ding. Yes.
That sound. Exactly what I'd been waiting for. Every transmigration novel has this moment. When you're pushed to the edge, your cheat ability awakens. Congratulations, host. Happy Farm has been activated. Please read the instruction manual carefully. Meanwhile, the first household wasn't even upset about losing us. They had 100 silver taels now. Why would they care about our labor? And in their twisted minds, they were already calculating. My two little sisters could be sold off in a few years for even more money. Good, split up. The sooner the better, Xionyang said cheerfully. With us gone, everything in the household belonged to them. Grandpa sat in the corner puffing his pipe. Deep down, he knew the truth. My father had worked like an ox his whole life, without a single complaint. My mother woke before dawn every day to cook, did all the laundry, and embroidered to earn extra money. A daughter-in-law like her was 1 in a million. He knew exactly what kind of people his older son and daughter-in-law really were. Grandma Lee gave Grandpa a look. She'd already laid it out. We could split, but we'd get nothing. No house, no land, no property. She figured we'd last a few days in the cold and come running back. Then she'd make my father personally deliver me to Landlord Lin.
Fine, Grandpa said.
Since you want to leave, let's be clear. The house is ours. If you want to stay, pay for it. Otherwise, take your belongings and get out. My father frowned. How is that fair? You built this house, but how much money have I brought into this family over the years? And Yunyang's family jewelry, how much was all of that worth? I silently gave my dad a thumbs up. At least, he wasn't the type to just roll over and accept whatever people told him. But Grandma Lee had made up her mind. She knew my father would choose us over property every time. Either we leave with nothing, or hand me over to Landlord Lin. That was her game. Dad, stop arguing with them, I said. They'll never give us anything. If we're splitting, let's do it properly. Call the village chief to write it down so they can't deny it later. Good idea. I'll go get him. Sioux Rue jumped at the chance. His mother had told him Grandma had secret savings hidden away. Once we were gone, all of that would belong to their family. He dragged back the village chief, an honest-looking man in his 60s named Ho Baogua, practically out of breath from being pulled the whole way. What? You're splitting the family? The old man looked around in shock. He glanced at Grandpa smoking silently, then at Grandma's mean face, then at us, beaten, bleeding, skinny as sticks. He looked at the first household's kids, fat, rosy-cheeked, dressed in fine red silk. He understood everything without being told. I put on my most pitiful face and told him the whole story, tears streaming down. My grandmother and aunt sold me for 100 taels to Landlord Lin in the next village. He's older than my grandfather. I refused, so they tried to tie me up and drag me there. When my parents tried to protect me, they beat us all bloody. Su Rue needs tuition money, so they want to sell me. How is that fair? The village chief sighed. The Su family was famous in the village for being crooked. Everyone knew the second household did all the work while the first household enjoyed all the rewards. Just look at the children, one side fat and healthy, the other skin and bones. He looked at us and made his decision. All right. I'll be your witness. He probably figured splitting off was the best thing that could happen to us. Away from these people, maybe we'd actually have a chance at a decent life. Grandma Lee laid it all out one more time. You walk out that door, you're no longer part of this family. No share of Su Rue's future success. No house. No land. Nothing. The village chief frowned deeply. This isn't splitting a family, this is sending them out to die. You're not giving them anything? How are they supposed to survive? Grandma snorted. Splitting was their idea. They can still change their minds. Just agree to marry him off, and we'll forget everything. He Xianyang put on her fake sweet voice. That's right, brother. Every girl gets married eventually. Why not marry rich? You'd benefit too. My mother shot her a disgusted look. If it's so wonderful, marry your own daughter. Then your son's tuition is covered forever. He Xianyang's face dropped instantly. My daughter is my treasure. She can't marry an old man. My mother laughed bitterly. So your daughter is treasure and mine is trash you can throw away. She turned to the village chief, tears streaming down her face. Sir, listen to these people. They want me to sell my daughter so their son can study and their family can live in luxury. All these years, my husband brought home every penny he earned. Look at their 3 kids. Well-fed, well-dressed, looking like rich town children. Now look at mine, patches everywhere, skin and bones, never had a full meal in their lives. These people are blood-sucking parasites. He Xianyang couldn't argue back. She just turned to Grandma with her usual line. See? Good intentions treated like dirt. Grandpa stood up, took one long drag of his pipe, and gave my father a final chance. Son, you know what splitting means in this weather. Apologize to your mother and send him over. We'll put this behind us. Dad, I haven't done anything wrong. I can't sell my daughter. If you don't want to split, then have Mom return the money. He Xianyang nearly choked. Return the money? You might as well kill me. Then she turned to me with a sugary smile. Meow dear, Auntie knows you're a good girl. Think about it. If your family splits off during a snowstorm, how will you survive? Be a good girl and go be a bride. This all goes away. If not for your parents, then think of little Nyonyo and Daodu. She almost moved herself to tears with that performance. She was betting I was too soft-hearted to watch my family starve. But I could see right through her. If we left, who'd cook their meals? Who'd wash their clothes? Who'd work the fields? Who'd earn their money? And in a few years, my little sisters would grow up and she could sell them too. Every calculation was written all over her face. Stop trying to guilt-trip me. I know exactly what you're thinking. If we leave, nobody cooks for you, nobody does laundry, nobody works the land. You don't want us to split. You want us to stay as your slaves. If you really want to keep us, marry your own daughter off. Problem solved. She slapped her thighs so hard it echoed. Ungrateful.
Fine. Do whatever you want, Grandpa sighed. All right.
If you insist on splitting, don't come crying later. Wife, bring out the grain. Grandma gave Xianyang a look. She understood immediately and went into the east room. She came back carrying 1/2 full sack of rice husks. Not rice. Not flour. Husks, the garbage left over after milling. The good rice and white flour had been locked away by Grandma long ago. Whenever we were out working, she'd secretly cook it for the first household's kids. She'd even been selling grain behind our backs and slipping the money to them. Grandma tossed the bag of husks at our feet. Xianyang crossed her arms and smirked. Better think hard. Once you're split off, don't come begging us for food. Don't worry, I shot back. Even if we were begging, we'd never beg at your door. 30 years east, 30 years west, the river always turns. Maybe one day we'll be the rich ones. Don't cry when that happens. You little, she lunged at me. Try it. I dare you. With my father standing behind me now, I wasn't afraid of anyone. My father stared at the pathetic half-sack of husks. His brow creased deep. What about the money? Where's the silver? What silver? There's no silver. Don't lie to me. I brought home over 10 taels just a few days ago. And all the money before that. Where did it go? Food, clothes, tuition, it's all been spent. There's nothing left. My father finally saw it crystal clear. They had no intention of giving us anything. They wanted to squeeze us until we broke and handed me over.
Fine.
My money's gone. Then at least return the bride price to Landlord Lin. Grandma waved her hand dismissively.
Don't worry about that.
I knew what she was planning. Once we split off, she'd send Landlord Lin directly to us to collect his bride. No money returned, no escape. Force me into marriage whether I agreed or not. The village chief shook his head. This is too unfair. 5 people, and you're giving them this? You're deliberately trying to kill them. He was a decent man. He genuinely couldn't stand watching this anymore. My father spoke firmly. Chief Ho, let's just finalize it. From today, our family has nothing to do with theirs. Please be our witness. The village chief nodded. He could see that staying in this house was worse than leaving. With my father's work ethic and skills, our family had a real chance on our own.
All right.
I'll witness this. And if anyone tries to threaten your family in the future, I'll speak up for you. I thanked Village Chief Ho. He wasn't done fighting for us yet. They don't get any money, fine. But at least give them some land. Grandma Lee wrinkled her face. They can have the mountain plot on the west side of the village. The chief's eyes went wide. Mountain land? That rocky slope has been abandoned for years. It's practically wasteland. And with the mountains buried in snow right now, how is that supposed to help them survive? Grandma sneered. Splitting was their choice. Giving them anything at all is generous. Take it or leave it. I knew that so-called mountain land was just an uncleared hillside, bad drainage, impossible to farm properly. In good weather you could maybe grow some fruit. In bad weather like this year it was useless dirt. But I'd already checked my new system. Inside my happy farm, there was fertile soil and even spring water. So, it didn't matter what land they gave us. What mattered was cutting ties with these people as fast as possible. Dad, let's just take it. As long as our family sticks together, we'll build our own house before long. My father looked at his parents one last time. His heart was bleeding. A lifetime of backbreaking work for this family, and all he got was a piece of land nobody wanted. Xionyang crossed her arms and looked us up and down with contempt. Brother, it's not too late. What if Su Rui passes his exam someday? You'd get some benefits too. You're splitting the family over a money-losing girl. Is it really worth it? Once she grows up and marries out, you think she'll remember you? My father's eyes went red. Their pig of a daughter was a precious treasure, but his beautiful girl was a money-losing burden. Neither Grandma nor Grandpa showed a drop of concern for me. His heart went ice cold. Then Grandma pulled her next move. Fine, split. But he came from my womb. I raised him. Even after splitting, he owes me 5 taels of support money every year. The village chief stepped in immediately. 5 taels? Do you know how much that is? A whole family lives on that for a year. You're splitting them off with nothing and still want them to feed your entire household? I'm making the call. Half a string of coins. If you keep arguing, it'll be nothing. Grandma pushed for 3 taels. My father went silent. 3 taels was half of everything he could earn in a year working non-stop. 1 tael, I said. That's final. We're done wasting time. The village chief backed us up. 1 tael is already plenty when you gave them absolutely nothing. If the boy gets stubborn and refuses to pay at all, there's nothing you can do about it. My father caught on quick. The chief is right. Take it or leave it. If you don't agree, you get 0. Grandma clenched her jaw, but she agreed. She figured we'd barely last a few days with that pathetic sack of grain husks. We'd come crawling back soon enough, and then she'd have all the power. All right, everyone press your thumbprints on the paper. The chief gave us one final look. Children, I'll ask one more time. It's a disaster year. The harvest was bad. Mountains are snowed in. Are you sure about this? We're sure. Please write it up. There was no point fighting anymore. No matter how hard we pushed, Grandma would never give us a single extra thing. Better to leave fast than keep arguing. Mommy, we'll go inside and pack, Nyonyo and Dauda said together. Xunyang saw my sisters heading to our room and immediately sent Su Rue and Su Qing after them. Her orders were clear: don't let them take anything alive. Our room was tiny, 5 people crammed into one small space. The most valuable thing we owned was a laying hen my mother had brought from her family's home. She never ate the eggs herself. She'd save up 10 at a time and sell them in town for extra money. The first household had been eyeing that chicken for a long time. Our belongings were pitiful: 1 blanket, a few worn clothes, and some farming tools hanging on the wall. My sisters packed everything in minutes. When I went to grab the chicken from its coop, Su Rue blocked me. My mom said you can't take anything alive. Put it down or I'll hit you. Su Qing backed him up. The two of them stood there guarding a chicken like it was made of gold. I looked at the hen. I looked at the 2 idiots. Then I grabbed the chicken by the neck and gave it 1 quick twist.
Done.
The poor thing died on the spot. Sorry, little buddy. You had to be sacrificed. Su Rue stood there with his mouth hanging open. His mother said no living things. But now it was dead. So, I can take it now, right? Su Qing said, actually helping me make my point without realizing it. I stared at these 2 morons, speechless. Then I looked around the room. They wouldn't let us live in this house? Fine. I marched into the woodshed, grabbed the axe, and swung it hard. 3 chops and half a wall came crashing down. If we can't live here, neither can you. Nyonyo and Dauda's eyes went huge. They secretly gave me 2 tiny thumbs up, their faces glowing with admiration. Big sister is so cool. I looked at the 2 little ones and flicked my chin up proudly. Stick with me from now on. I'll make sure you eat meat every single day. We'll stuff ourselves right in front of their faces and make them drool. Really? I put on my most confident look. When has her big sister ever lied? But Mommy brought that hen from Grandma's house. She'll be sad we killed it, Nyonyo whispered. Better sad than leaving it for these ungrateful wolves, I said. She nodded. You're right, big sister. Xunyang had sent her 2 kids to watch me specifically, so I wouldn't take the chicken. She was already dreaming about collecting eggs every day and selling them in town. Then Su Rue and Su Qing came running out in a panic.
Mom.
That girl killed the chicken. You said she couldn't take anything alive, so she made it dead. Can she take it now? Xunyang slapped her own forehead. Even she wanted to call her own kids idiots. She hissed at them. Why didn't you grab it from her? But Mom, you didn't tell us to grab it. I walked out carrying bundles on my back and a dead chicken in my arms. Grandma Lee saw it and nearly had a stroke. You murderer. Who told you to kill it? That was a laying hen. The eggs alone were worth several taels a year. I stared her down. So what? My mom brought this chicken from her family's home. It's ours. I'll kill it if I want. Tonight, our family eats chicken stew. She turned to my father screaming about what a worthless, money-losing daughter he'd raised. My father's heart ached over the chicken, but he knew, if I hadn't killed it, we wouldn't have gotten a single feather. My daughter did nothing wrong. Stop calling her a money loser. My girls are precious. The chicken was Yunyang's from her family. Our family is split now. It's none of your business. Grandma watched me holding her precious egg layer and practically ground her teeth to dust. She grabbed a broom and started sweeping at us like we were garbage.
Get out. Get out.
I never want to see your faces again. I hope you all starve to death. Even the village chief couldn't stay quiet. How can you curse your own son like that? Grandma spat on the ground. He's still my son? Su Rue needs money for his exams next spring. All I asked was for 1 girl to get married. He chose a money-losing brat over his own mother. I'll curse him all I want. I shifted my bundles, looked her right in the eye, and spat on the ground the same way she did. Sure, I'm a money loser. And what's your granddaughter? Su Rue passing the exam? You might as well dream about catching the moon. The neighbor village's kid started school the same year as him and passed years ago. You just watch. Without my dad working for you and my mom serving you, your precious daughter-in-law is going to treat you like a dog. Xunyang was cracking sunflower seeds nearby. She frowned hard when she heard that. I'd basically said out loud exactly what she was planning. Shut up. Your grandma will live like a queen with us. That made me laugh. My uncle was lazy and dishonest. My aunt spent her days gossiping around the village instead of working. Every chore in this house had been done by our family. Once we were gone, they'd have to do everything themselves. Get out. Far away. Don't let me see you. Grandma kept screaming. The village chief sighed and tried one more time. The cow shed on the west side. It's just bamboo poles and straw. Wind blows right through it. You're really not giving them even one room? You're watching them die. Grandpa sat there sucking his pipe for a long time. Then he spoke. They chose to split. Whatever happens after, that has nothing to do with our family. My father's heart shattered completely. His mother was cruel, and now his father had abandoned him too. There was nothing left to hold on to. Chief, don't bother. I, Suwin, swear right here. Even if I starve to death, I will never come back to this house. Grandma's face went cold. Look at the wonderful son I raised.
Get out.
Go die out there for all I care. I held my dead chicken, my bundle on my back, my two little sisters beside me. I turned and looked at Grandma, Lee, one last time. Don't worry. No matter how poor we get, we'll never come begging to you. But when we get rich, and we will, don't you dare show up at our door crying poor. My dad used to feed this whole big family. Now, it's just 5 of us. That's easier, not harder. And my mom? She woke up before dawn every single day, cooking, cleaning, washing, even emptying your chamber pots. From today, you do all that yourselves. Honestly, we're thrilled. Grandma's heart skipped. It suddenly hit her. Who is going to do all the work now? Count on the first household? Those lazy freeloaders? But she shook it off. She was certain we'd come crawling back within a week. Don't think we can't survive without you. My old bones can work for another 10 years. Behind her, Xunyang spat out a seed shell and muttered under her breath. Well, mother, you said it, not me. Now that they're gone, I guess you'll be the one cooking from now on. Grandma shot her a nasty look. Even that fool knew when to keep her mouth shut. Apparently not. Let's go. My father hoisted the bundles onto his shoulder, grabbed his hoe, and led us away without looking back. Behind us, Grandma Lee was still fuming. Good. Let them suffer out there. They'll learn what happens when you disobey me. Then she turned to the first household. Come on, let's clean up. Now your boys each get their own room. We hadn't gone far when we heard her screaming again. She'd discovered the wall I'd smashed. You little demon. You destroyed my wall. I should have sold you to a brothel when your father wasn't home. My parents heard the cursing and their faces fell. Over a decade of loyal service, and this was what they got in return. Little Dowdu was in my father's arms. She was only 4, skinny as a twig. Daddy, are we really having chicken tonight? Looking at her bony little body, my father's heart was breaking. Yes, baby. Chicken and rabbit meat too. Daddy's going to work hard so you can eat meat every day. He said the words cheerfully, but I could see the worry behind his eyes. The mountains were buried in snow. We had nowhere to live. Every family in the village was too poor to take us in. Don't worry, he said. Once we get there, Daddy will chop some wood and build us a home. Mom, Dad, look what I brought. I grinned and opened my bundle. Pots, bowls, ladles, everything. I grabbed whatever I could from the kitchen before we left. No wonder Grandma was screaming back there. And I smashed our old room too. If we can't sleep there, they don't get to use it either. My mother rubbed my head and smiled. My clever Himyao. How could anyone call my brilliant daughter a money loser? The thought of Grandma's cruel words made her eyes sting again. Mom, I'm not that fragile. I don't care one bit what she says. Now let's get to work. You and the girls set up a cooking pit and boil that chicken. Big sister, Dowdu, and I will gather firewood. Nyo volunteered.
Good.
Get enough so we don't freeze to death tonight. I needed to go to the mountain with my dad and secretly check out what was inside my new system. Just as we feared, the old cow shed was half collapsed under the snow. My father stared at the wreckage, his brow knotted with guilt. My mother looked at it, and her tears started flowing again. But me? I was thrilled. Wow, look at all this snow. I'd grown up in the South in my previous life and never seen anything like it. I dropped my bundle and rolled around in the snow with my sisters, laughing and playing. Dad, Mom, I love this place. It's huge. When we have money, we'll build a big house right here. You and Dad take the east room, my sisters and I take the west. Kitchen goes here, and over there a little flower garden. In my old life, I'd been ground down working corporate jobs. A peaceful farming life was all I'd ever dreamed of. And now it was actually happening. Sure, things looked rough right now, but everything would get better. Seeing us so happy warmed my parents' hearts. My mother wiped her tears, rolled up her sleeves, her hands covered in frostbite sores, and started clearing dead grass to dig a fire pit. As long as we had fire, we wouldn't freeze.
My father checked the time.
The back mountain was close enough to haul some lumber before dark. Dad, wait. I'm coming with you. Extra hands. He didn't want me to go because of the dangerous conditions, but I wore him down. We headed into the mountains together. The snow was even deeper than I'd imagined. Villagers had already scavenged all the small trees for firewood, leaving only the massive ones. My father found a good tree and started chopping. We needed to get it back before nightfall to build a basic shelter. Tomorrow he'd take one of the rabbits, the two he'd cleverly hidden by the front gate, to town and trade it for some silver. Stand back, meow. He spat on his palms and swung the axe hard. Years of labor had made him thin, but incredibly strong. Since I couldn't help with the chopping, I slipped away to a quiet spot and called up my system. A transparent panel appeared in front of me with 4 sections: planting zone, steel crop zone, expansion zone, and a 10x cashback zone. I couldn't use the planting zone yet, no seeds. The expansion zone was for adding more farmland later. The cashback zone would multiply money spent on certain people. But the steel crop zone, what was that? I tapped it open and saw plots of land, each labeled with a name. And right there, Grandma Lee's land. My heart jumped with joy. That lying old hag had told everyone her vegetables were all frozen and ruined. But here they were, perfectly fine, hidden underground. I tapped the little grabbing hand on my screen. A white radish appeared at my feet out of thin air. This was the farm game I used to play all the time. It had transmigrated with me. Oh, I knew this game inside and out. Steal, 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 steal. I cleaned out every single thing growing in Grandma Lee's fields. Every last vegetable. Payback for all her favoritism. I could already picture her face tomorrow when she discovered her crops had vanished. She'd be slapping her thighs and screaming. Just thinking about it felt amazing. Then I tapped the switch button. The view shifted through a cloud of mist and landed on Landlord Lynn's fields. I pressed the grabbing hand again. A potato appeared at my feet. A potato. My eyes lit up. This wasn't just food. This was a whole path to getting rich. The sky was burning red by the time my father finished chopping. He didn't stop swinging that axe for a single second. Our lives depended on it. Meow, grab those branches. Straight ones for fencing, small ones for firewood. I quickly hid the radishes, cabbages, and potatoes I'd stolen from the system under some snow in my basket so nobody would see them. Coming, Dad. I sorted the branches into 2 piles like he told me, straight ones bundled together, messy ones tied separately. The evening mountain wind cut straight through my bones. Back at camp, my mother and sisters had already built a simple stove. This spot was so remote that nobody usually came here, so there were still some dead weeds and dry branches left to gather. My 2 little sisters were on their hands and knees pulling up dead grass, their tiny bodies working hard in their patched-up clothes. Their little hands were covered in frostbite sores. Their shoes had holes everywhere. My mother watched them, and her eyes went red. She blamed herself for not being able to give them a better life. "Mommy, look what me and Daddy brought," I called out, breaking her out of her sad thoughts. My father came behind me, using every ounce of strength to carry 2 thick logs on his shoulders. My mother rushed over and wiped her tears, stroking my hair gently. When she saw my hands, cracked and swollen from washing clothes in freezing water all winter, her tears poured out again. She held my hands in hers and rubbed them warm. "Go call your sisters back. Tonight we eat chicken." I found the 2 little ones in the field, bent over pulling up dry grass with their bare hands. It was heartbreaking and adorable at the same time. Nuno spotted me and came running with a fistful of straw. "Big sister, look how much we found." "We got so much." She spread her arms wide to show me. Little Dodo held out her hand. In her palm was a pretty stone. I found this. It's for you, big sister. You like it, right? I rubbed both their messy heads. Their hair was tangled and frizzy from not being washed in ages, like little explosions. Come on, we're eating good tonight. We loaded up the grass and headed back. The setting sun stretched our 3 small shadows across the snow. As we got close, a smell hit us that none of us had ever experienced before. Rich, warm, incredible. Everyone's back. Put your stuff down, we're eating meat tonight. I'd forgotten to give my mother the vegetables from my basket earlier. I pulled out the potatoes and tossed them into the still-burning fire pit. Potato and chicken soup. Perfect combo. My mother was busy cooking. My father was splitting logs next to her. He had to build us a windbreak before bedtime in case it snowed again. He wouldn't rest even when Mom begged him to take a break. Mom melted snow in a pot by the fire so we could wash our hands. Then she ladled out the chicken, meat, bones, soup, everything, into bowls set on a table she'd made from stacked stones. Nuno and Dauda stared at the food, drooling so hard they couldn't help it. Mommy, I really want to taste chicken. I reached in and fished out a drumstick for each of them. But instead of eating, they both held their drumsticks out to me. Big sister, you take this one. We'll eat the other parts. My heart nearly broke. No way. You two are still growing. You need the meat more than me. Look, there's plenty left for everyone. They've been hungry for so long their stomachs were growling nonstop. Finally they gave in and bit into the drumsticks. One bite, and their faces lit up like the sun came out. So this is what chicken tastes like. Before, we could only watch our cousins eating while Grandma told us to go away. She said we were worthless girls who didn't deserve to eat Sioux family food. They said Daddy was born to be their servant. My parents' faces went tight with anger, then crumpled with pain. They knew the grandparents favored the first household, but hearing their babies described being treated like that, not even allowed to eat, being cursed at and humiliated, it was almost too much. My father's nails dug into his palms. From now on, Daddy will make sure you eat meat every single day. When we save enough money, I'll send you to learn embroidery so you'll never go hungry again. And when we're rich, we'll build a big house, 1 room for each of you. And Daddy will buy you the prettiest dresses. Okay? Night fell. Under our half-collapsed shelter, a campfire crackled. The smell of roasted meat drifted through the cold air. I played in the snow with my sisters while our parents sawed wood frantically, racing to build something, anything, to shield us from the wind before we slept. Be careful. Don't get snow inside your collars, Mom called out. We won't, Mommy. Big sister, are the potatoes done? They smell so good. Dauda poked around in the fire pit with a stick and rolled out several perfectly roasted potatoes. She took a big bite, eyes wide. It's so good. So good. This is the first time in my whole life I've ever been full. My mother watched us eating with satisfied faces, and for the first time all day, she actually smiled. As long as we were together, things didn't seem so terrible. She was already planning. Tomorrow she'd visit her family and borrow a little to get us through. Come spring, we'd clear the mountain land and grow vegetables to pay them back. Her family was good people and not badly off. But last year's locust plague destroyed their bean crop, and now the snowstorm was hitting them too. She hated asking for help, but there was no other choice. Her brother and sister-in-law cared about her, but they had their own mouths to feed. She kept telling herself, just survive this winter. Once spring came, my father would find work and the money would come. All those years he'd earned plenty, but every coin went straight into Grandma's pocket to fund the first household. Now that we'd shaken off those leeches, we could finally keep what we earned. Meanwhile, Hixunyang had sent Su Rue and Su Lei to spy on us, hoping to find us starving. Instead, they found our whole family drinking chicken soup and eating potatoes. They ran home furious.
Mom,
you said they wouldn't survive. But they're eating chicken. Back at the Su house, Grandma's family was gnawing on tasteless corn buns. Hearing that we were feasting on chicken soup made Grandma's blood boil. Let them drink. I hope they choke. Snow's coming again. Let's see if they make it through the night. After dinner, the dirty bowls sat on the table. Grandma looked at Hixunyang expectantly. Hixunyang looked away fast. My mother used to do all the dishes. Now that she was gone, somebody had to step up. Xionyang shook her head. I cooked. You want me to wash dishes too? She wasn't my mother. She'd never lift a finger more than necessary. Winter water was freezing cold, and firewood was running low. Cooking was already her limit. Grandma turned to Su Qing. That lazy girl held up her soft hands. Grandma, you always said I'm destined for a rich life. Look at these delicate hands. You really want me washing dishes? Su Rui jumped up. I'm going to my room to study. Su Lei followed right behind. That left Grandma and Grandpa sitting at a table full of dirty dishes. Grandpa puffed his pipe and didn't budge. Grandma had to do it herself. The moment her hands hit that bucket of icy water, the cold stabbed right to her bones. She cursed my mother under her breath the entire time. Over at the village chief's house, Ho Baogwa couldn't sit still. His wife asked what was wrong. It's the Su family mess. Li Chunhua kicked them out to that broken-down cow shed in the dead of winter. The straw roof is probably rotted through. She's pushing them to their deaths. His wife sighed. We don't have a spare blanket. Our own family barely has enough. But maybe they could squeeze in with us tonight. Even strangers cared more about us than our own family. The chief grabbed a few corn buns from the pot, wrapped them up, stuffed them inside his coat, and headed out into the freezing night. The mountain path was empty and dark. Wind sliced through him, and he shivered hard. In this cold, that family's going to freeze to death up there. Those Sioux people are truly heartless. He could see our campfire glowing from far away. As he got closer, he saw my sisters playing in the snow while my parents chopped wood nonstop. He sighed deeply, thinking about how my father had worked himself to the bone for that family his whole life. If they'd let him study instead of Surue, he'd probably be a ranked scholar by now. Instead, they wasted everything on that fat-headed kid who could barely pass the lowest exam after years of trying. And they treated him like a treasure. Without my father propping them up, they wouldn't last long. They had no idea how good they'd had it. Chief Ho, what are you doing here? I spotted him walking toward us in his straw rain cape. He smiled and pulled out the corn buns, handing them to us kids. You must be starving. Look what I brought. My parents stopped working and hurried over to greet him. Uncle Ho, it's freezing. Why did you come all this way? Brought you some food. And the weather's looking bad. Why don't you come stay at my place tonight? But I knew his house already had over a dozen people crammed into it. There was no room. My father looked at those corn buns, and his heart warmed. In times like these, when every family was barely surviving, food was more precious than gold. The chief brought us 5 buns. Our own blood family had treated us worse than strangers. Uncle Ho, we already ate. Remember, we killed that chicken. The chief sighed again at the mention of the chicken. He knew how desperate things must have been for us to slaughter a laying hen. Keep the buns for tomorrow then. I took them with a smile. Mom, let's accept them. I've got some potatoes left in the pot. Let me get a few for Chief Ho. I had plenty of potatoes. If I ran out, I'd just steal more from Landlord Lin's fields. There was no shortage. I couldn't eat them all even if I tried. You silly girl. Look at your situation, and you're still thinking about others. Chief Ho tried to push back the potatoes I brought him. Keep them for your sisters. Take them, please. I got lucky today, Dad, and I found a whole bunch in the mountains. We have plenty. The old man pulled me into a hug. He couldn't understand how the Sioux family could throw away granddaughters like me while treating those lazy first household kids like treasures. Chief Ho isn't hungry. You need these more than I do right now. I knew what potatoes meant during a famine year. If this were Grandma, would she share a single bite with us? Not a chance. If you don't take them, we're not taking your corn buns either. My parents backed me up, and he finally gave in. He tucked the potatoes into his coat and said, Your cow shed can't be fixed tonight. Come sleep at my place. You can work on it tomorrow. My father wanted to say yes, but he knew Chief Ho's family had over a dozen people crammed into one house. His 2 oldest sons were injured from a construction job where the boss refused to pay, and they were still bedridden. Squeezing 5 corn buns out for us was already stretching them to the limit. Uncle, we appreciate it, but your family has troubles too. Look, we've already cut plenty of wood. We'll plant some posts, stack the wood around them, keep the fire going inside. We won't freeze. No matter how hard the chief pushed, We wouldn't budge. So he rolled up his sleeves. Fine then. I'll help you build. More hands means a faster shelter, so these kids don't freeze. Right then, ding. My system chimed. Congratulations, host. 10x cashback activated. You gave away 5 cooked potatoes, returning 50 cooked potatoes. Accept now or store in heated space for up to 3 days. Wait, the cashback triggered just from giving food to Chief Ho? This was incredible. 50 cooked potatoes. At 10 a day, that was enough to feed our whole family for 5 days. By the time I snapped out of it, the 4 main posts of our shelter were already standing. Even little Nyonyo and Daodu were helping. Watching everyone work together, I felt something warm in my chest. This family, my new family, I was going to make things good for them. Mom, Dad, I'll help too. We worked past midnight and finally built a simple wooden shelter. The girls' straw went on top as a roof. My father shook the whole thing hard. It held. He even built a basic bed frame from leftover wood so we wouldn't have to sleep on the ground.
I'll head home then, Chief Ho said.
If you need anything, send him out to find me. He looked at the potatoes in his hands sheepishly. I came to give you food, and I'm leaving with more than I brought. Uncle, just take them. Think of it as thanks for always looking out for us. Then I had an idea. I grabbed 5 more potatoes and pressed them into his hands. These are payment for helping us build tonight. Ding. 10x cashback. 50 potatoes returned. It worked again. So if I gave him other things, would it work too? I grabbed a big cabbage from my basket and stuffed it into his arms.
Ding.
10x cashback. 10 cabbages returned. Yes. What about radishes? I shoved 2 white radishes at him.
Ding.
20 white radishes returned. I was losing my mind with excitement. Chief Ho had become our walking cashback machine. Within minutes, the poor man was standing there overloaded with potatoes, cabbages, and radishes. He'd come to deliver a few corn buns and was leaving with a whole harvest. This doesn't feel right. My father was confused by my behavior, but didn't stop me. The old man had trudged through freezing cold to help us. He deserved it. Night was getting deep and colder by the minute. Chief Ho saw that we had a roof over our heads now and felt relieved enough to leave. He held his armload of vegetables, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then just smiled.
Well,
thank you. After he left, it was well past midnight. My mother spread our blanket over the straw-covered bed frame. Nyonyo and Daodu were so exhausted they fell asleep in her arms within seconds. My father added wood chips to the fire. He was already planning tomorrow. Dig clay from the mountain to fill the wall gaps, secure the straw roof. It wasn't much, but at least we had somewhere. My mother stuffed old rags into every crack to block the wind, then tucked the blanket tight around the little ones. She pulled me close, her rough, cracked hands gently touching my face. Are you hungry? Chief Ho's corn buns are on the stove. I shook my head. Mom, I'm not hungry, but I need to tell you something. I've been saving up a lot of stuff. I opened my system storage and dumped everything out: potatoes, cabbages, white radishes. A whole mountain of food appeared on the ground. My mother's first thought was that I'd stolen it all. But then she realized the entire village was buried in snow. Where would I steal from? My parents stared at me, more shocked than confused. I bit my lip. I know this is hard to believe. It's really strange, and I'll explain everything later. Just trust me. All that food appearing out of nowhere. Of course my parents were suspicious. My father looked at me sternly. Meow. Tell me the truth. Did you steal these? I couldn't exactly say yes. I stole them from Grandma's secret farm using a magical system panel. He'd think I'd lost my mind. So, I went with a simpler explanation. Dad, remember this afternoon when I went to the mountain with you? I found a whole basket full of stuff. I told you about it, but you were too busy chopping. He thought about it and realized I had been wandering around while he worked. He'd been too focused to pay attention to what I'd said. The tension drained from his face, and he let out a long breath. Then the guilt hit him.
Hemel, I'm sorry.
All these years I worked like a dog for that family, and I can't even give you a proper roof. He looked at the nearly empty sack of rice husks, then around at our leaky shelter with wind blowing through every crack. His eyes went red in the firelight. If he'd stood up for himself sooner, if he'd seen through those people earlier, we wouldn't be in this mess. But he had strong arms and an iron will. A few more days of hauling wood and clay from the mountain, and he could make this place livable. Dad, tomorrow let me and Mom take these vegetables to town and sell them. We'll get some silver and buy supplies. My mother agreed right away. She's right. We keep some for ourselves and sell the rest. During a disaster like this, people in town have money but no food. We might get a really good price. We'd need to buy our own pots and bowls too. The ones I'd swiped from Grandma's kitchen would probably be missed by morning, and she'd come storming over to take them back. I wanted zero connection to that family ever again. All right, my father said. Tomorrow we split up. You go to Chief Ho's first thing and ask him to watch our shelter while we're gone. No door, no lock. If we all left, everything would get stolen. These were hard times. My father threw a big log into the fire pit to keep it burning until dawn. We huddled together in the cow shed and somehow made it through the night. When I opened my eyes the next morning, Dad was already gone with his axe. Mom had packed the vegetables neatly into a basket, raw ones on the bottom, cooked potatoes wrapped in cloth on top. One full load, ready to sell. She handed me 2 potatoes and smiled. Go to Chief Ho's house first. Ask him to keep an eye on things. Sure, but can I take a few extra? His family probably hasn't had breakfast either. I grabbed about a dozen potatoes and headed to the village chief's house. When I got there, I found Mrs. Lou scolding her husband while he washed the cabbage I'd given him last night. You want to give them food, and came back with their stuff? They're barely surviving and you're taking from them? I tried to refuse. That girl kept shoving things at me. You could have said no harder. What's done is done. Should I bring it back? Mrs. Lou sighed. Returning it now would be embarrassing. Let's just help them more from now on. When they're both working, we can watch their little girls. I'm already watching our grandkids. 2 more will make a difference. Good idea. They can't work properly while dragging 2 little ones around. That Li Chunhua is something else. Mrs. Lou grumbled. Su Rui's been studying for years and can't even pass the lowest exam. He's clearly not scholar material. What a waste of money. Meanwhile, Suwon went to school for just a few days and the teacher praised him as gifted. If Li Chunhua had invested in her own son instead, he might be a ranked official by now. You think she'd let her best workers stop working to go study? Then who does the labor? That lazy oldest son. And that he woman. After all the second family did for them, she didn't just stay quiet. She stirred up more trouble. Makes my blood boil. Chief Ho sighed. At least they split off. If they hadn't, all 3 girls would have been sold eventually. Better to split early. Just then their grandson spotted me. Grandma, Sister Hemiao is here. Mrs. Liu jumped up and welcomed me in warmly. I handed her the potatoes. My mom sent these. We need to go out today and she's hoping you could watch our place. Of course. But sweetie, you're going through such hard times. Stop bringing us food. We found plenty in the mountains, really. We have enough. She couldn't refuse me, so she accepted. Then she asked carefully, are you taking the little ones with you? We have to. Nobody to watch them. Leave them here with me. I'm already looking after grandkids. 2 more is nothing. That way you and your parents can work without worrying. Ding! Congratulations, host. 120 potatoes returned via 10x cashback. My heart leaped. It worked again just from giving her the potatoes. I still wasn't sure if the cashback triggered for everyone or just certain people. But there was no rush to figure that out. Today's mission was to sell our vegetables in town. I could test the system on other people later. Don't worry, I'll take good care of your little sisters, Mrs. Liu promised. I bowed deeply to both of them. If I ever make it big, you'll be the first people I repay. Mrs. Liu smiled so wide her eyes crinkled. What a good child. She shook her head thinking about Grandma Li. Throwing away granddaughters like this while spoiling those lazy, thieving kids from the first household. Then she went to the chicken coop and came back with a single egg, still warm from being freshly laid. She pressed it into my hand.
Take this to town.
Sell it and you might get enough for a couple feet of cloth to make some shoes. In times like these, 1 egg was incredibly precious. It could buy 2 feet of fabric. Traded for last year's old rice mix with husks, it could feed someone for 10 days. That's how heavy this gift was. I refused over and over. Chief Ho's family needed those eggs to sell for medicine for their injured sons. But Mrs. Liu insisted. Finally, I thanked her one more time and headed home. Back at our shelter, I told Mom everything was arranged. Chief Ho would watch our place and the little ones could stay with Mrs.
Lou.
We dropped off Nyonyo and Dowdu, loaded up our baskets, and headed for town. There was a cow cart in the village, but it cost 2 copper coins per ride. Way too expensive. We'd never taken it in all these years. But I promised myself that once we sold our vegetables, I'd bring Mom back on that cart. My mother carried the full basket on her back. She was so thin. Walking through the snow, her figure looked fragile enough to snap. No matter how much I begged, she barely let me carry anything. Mom, let me take some. I can handle it. She finally put a few cabbages in my basket. After that, no matter what I said, she wouldn't add a single thing more. That was just how mothers loved. We wound along mountain paths for what felt like forever. I'd grown up in a city in my past life. I'd never walked this far on rough terrain in my entire existence. My brain was practically overheating. Mom looked back and saw me gasping, my face bright red. Just a little further, sweetie. Once we get to town, you sit and rest while I sell. She wasn't being harsh. She was worried we'd arrive too late and miss the market. In this era, market days weren't every day. Mom, I can keep going. Just a little tired. She knew the real problem. All those years in the Sioux household, we'd barely eaten. Skipped meals constantly. My body was weak from years of malnutrition. Her eyes went wet thinking about it. But she told herself, everything would get better now. Once we sold these vegetables, she'd buy embroidery thread and make handkerchiefs to sell in town. Whatever other kids had, her daughters would have too. We rested twice before finally reaching town. Water Buffalo Town sat outside the capital. It was the biggest town within 50 miles. Even during the disaster, people filled the streets. The town gate was ancient, 100 years old, they said, built from packed mud walls with a big stone arch in the middle. 3 characters carved at the top read, Water Buffalo Town, though hardly anyone around here could read them. By the time we arrived, there was already a long line at the gate. Ox carts, people on donkeys, even a few fancy horse carriages. I poked my head out curiously. Mom, we have to wait in line to enter? A cheerful auntie in front of us turned around and laughed. You're not from around here, are you? There's a new order from the authorities. The young general is returning from a big victory in a few days, so the emperor ordered security checks across the whole city. She leaned in closer, her face glowing. They say this general is incredibly handsome, sharp brows, bright eyes, looks like a jade statue. Only 18 and doesn't even have a single concubine. The way she talked, it sounded like she wanted to marry him herself. I quietly leaned back a step. Thankfully, they were only checking identities at the gate, not charging a fee. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten in at all. Inside the town, it was even more crowded than outside. Mom gripped my hand tight and didn't let go for a second. I was pretty despite the malnutrition. Even in patched-up clothes, I stood out in a crowd. With New Year approaching, kidnappers were everywhere. Several girls from our village had disappeared over the years and were never found, alive or dead. Mom held on to me like her life depended on it as we pushed through the busy streets, searching for a spot to sell our vegetables. We finally found a space in the market. The market was packed with people, but almost empty of vegetables. The frost had destroyed most crops, so when I laid out our fresh produce, we were practically the only sellers in the whole place. A young woman in fine silk walked up right away. Soft hands, bright clothes, clearly a servant from a wealthy household. How much for these vegetables? On the way here, I'd asked around. The normal price was 10 copper coins per caddy. But today, I looked left, looked right. We were basically the only stall with anything green. My mother opened her mouth to say 10 coins. I cut in first. 50 coins per caddy. The girl's eyebrows shot up. That's way too expensive. It's usually 10. She seemed flustered, probably didn't have the authority to spend that much. But she'd walked the whole market and found almost nothing else. If you need to check with your manager, We can deliver straight to your estate. Saves you the trip back and forth, and we don't have to sit here waiting. Her face lit up with relief. That was exactly what she needed. All right, follow me. It's not far, just 4 alleys over. We followed her through the winding streets until we reached a grand red gate with 2 big stone lions on either side. This was serious money. She told us to wait at the entrance and disappeared inside. About 15 minutes later, she came back and led us through the back door. The place was incredible. Stone paths, carved pillars, red lanterns hanging everywhere for the new year. So this was what a rich family's home looked like in ancient times. I couldn't help gawking. Miss, eyes forward please, the maid reminded me gently. Message received, stop staring. She led us through a maze of corridors to the kitchen courtyard. Several cooks were standing around doing nothing, clearly waiting for ingredients. While the maid went to fetch the house manager, I grabbed a few cooked potatoes from my basket and handed them out to the kitchen ladies, 2 each. During a famine, even that small gesture meant something. People who receive gifts tend to talk freely. Are you all waiting for vegetables? I asked casually. The head cook, a friendly-looking plump woman, sighed. It's nearly noon, and we still don't have ingredients. When the master and mistress don't get their lunch on time, guess who gets blamed? Us. That told me everything I needed to know. They needed our vegetables desperately. This sale was as good as done. A fat-faced man with his nose practically pointed at the ceiling came strutting in behind the maid. The house manager. He looked us up and down like we were dirt. I hear you're asking 50 coins? You might as well rob us. I didn't flinch. Just smiled. Robbery? Am I holding a knife to your throat? We came because your maid invited us. If you don't like the price, we'll leave. I picked up my basket. Mom, let's go. My mother panicked. We'd walked all this way. She started to protest, but I squeezed her arm.
Trust me, Mom.
These people need us more than we need them. Their rice is already cooked, and they only have 2 side dishes. They have no choice.
Wait.
Who said you could leave? The manager's face twitched. Can a man even complain about the price? Fine.
50 perchetti.
I'll take everything you have. I looked him dead in the eye and smiled sweetly. Oh, you want to buy now? The price is 80. His face went purple. You just said 50. How dare you raise it? You buying or not? Wait any longer and it goes to 100. He nearly choked. The rice was done, lunch was due, and there were only 2 dishes ready. He ground his teeth, so hard I thought they'd crack.
Fine.
80.
Deal.
Don't you dare change it again. He was terrified I'd raise the price one more time. You lot, stop standing around. Get over here and weigh the vegetables. The kitchen ladies snapped out of their daze. They exchanged quick glances, and I could see them fighting back smiles. Apparently this manager bullied them every day, barking orders and acting superior. Watching a teenage farm girl put him in his place was the most satisfying thing they'd seen in ages. They looked at his red, sputtering face and felt very, very good. The kitchen ladies weighed everything while I did the math in my head. 50 caddies of cabbage at 80 coins per caddy, 4,000 coins. That's 4 taels of silver. 63 caddies of potatoes. I'll round down to 60 as a goodwill gesture, 4,800 coins, for taels and 800 coins. 25 caddies of white radish, 2,000 coins, 2 taels. Total comes to 10 taels, and 500 coins. I'll knock off 300 so you can buy yourself some wine. The manager looked like he'd swallowed a bug. I'd squeezed him dry, and now he was supposed to thank me for the discount? I must have done something terrible in 8 past lives to deserve meeting you today. It's not bad luck. It's your nasty mouth. Who do you think you're looking down on? Someone laughed from the doorway. I turned around. A young man stood there leaning against the corridor wall. Jade crown in his hair, red lips, white skin, and for some bizarre reason, he was holding a folding fan in the dead of winter. Everything about him screamed money and status. This was the Xiao family's 3rd young master, Xiao Yan. His father was a cabinet minister. He was well-educated but had a weak constitution, so he never entered government service. Instead, he managed the family shops and estates and spent his days visiting friends. His best friend happened to be the young general everyone in town was buzzing about. He'd overheard his maids giggling about the manager getting outsmarted by a farm girl and came to see for himself. Our eyes met. I was dressed in rags. He was dripping in luxury. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. His eyes brightened when he saw my face. I shot him an annoyed look and turned back to collect my money. The manager noticed his young master standing there and was about to bow, but Xiaoyan held his fan to his lips, a silent signal to stay quiet. The manager reluctantly pulled out a silver ingot and 800 copper coins and shoved them at me.
Here.
10 taels and 800 coins, not a single one short. I hope I never run into play gods like you again. I snorted. Don't count on it. Money in hand, I grabbed my basket and took Mom's hand to leave. But at the doorway, I had to pass Xiaoyan. I looked up at him. He looked down at me. Now, I should explain I wasn't staring because I was interested. I was born with eyes that look tender and emotional no matter who I'm looking at. I could be staring at a stray dog, and it would look like a love confession. The manager saw me gazing up at his young master and immediately started judging. Shameless poor girl, staring at a man like that. Xiaoyan was initially curious about me, this interesting girl who'd outsmarted his manager. But when I looked at him with those eyes, his expression shifted. He'd seen this 100 times. Another pretty girl trying to catch his attention, hoping to climb into his bed. He was just about to open his mouth, probably to tell me I wasn't worthy of him or something equally arrogant. But I beat him to it. I rolled my eyes right at him. Excuse me, sir. You're blocking our way. That was it. Nothing more. He stood there frozen. He'd expected me to say something like, "Young master, I fell in love at first sight. Please take me as your concubine." Instead, I just asked him to move. By the time his brain caught up, Mom and I were already gone. He turned to his bodyguard. "Poyan, would you say I'm handsome? You're the most handsome young master in the entire capital, sir." He nodded slowly. "Then why didn't that girl even look at me twice?" The guard scratched his head. Why was he bothered that one farm girl didn't? After a long pause, the guard squeezed out. "She's probably blind, sir." Then Xiaoyan called the manager over. "That calculation she just did. How long would it take you?" The manager thought about it. "Quite a while, sir. And how fast was she compared to you?" "Much faster," he admitted reluctantly. Xiaoyan tapped his fan against his forehead. A girl in peasant clothes, clearly never schooled, doing complex arithmetic faster than his trained house manager, without an abacus. If those two come back to sell vegetables, have them deliver here. And tell Poyan to notify me. The manager didn't understand why, but he wasn't about to question his master. Mom and I slipped out through the side gate. Her heart was still pounding. She'd been terrified the whole time that the deal would fall apart. Honestly, mine was too. But we'd pulled it off. "Mom, we've got 10 taels of silver now. What should we buy first?" While Mom and I were out selling vegetables, things back at the old Sioux house were already falling apart. Xianyang got dragged out of bed at the crack of dawn by Grandma Li to cook breakfast. All those years, my mother had done everything: cooking, cleaning, laundry, sweeping. Now it all fell on Xianyang's shoulders, and she was furious. She stared at the ladle in her hand and wanted to throw it. If it weren't for the 100 taels sitting in the old woman's pocket, she'd have lost her mind completely. After breakfast, she had to wash the dishes too. She slumped on the heated bed fuming. Su Qing sat on the other end cracking sunflower seeds like always, completely unbothered. "Mom, when are you going to town again? I want snacks. All you think about is eating. Your grandma won't give me money. How am I supposed to go?" Su Qing's eyes lit up with a scheme.
Easy.
Grandma loves Su Rui the most. I'll get him to ask her for money. She hopped off the bed and ran out. Before Xianyang's backside even warmed the seat, Grandma was yelling from outside. "Come sweep the yard. And wash yesterday's clothes." Xianyang wanted to strangle me. If I'd just agreed to marry landlord Lin, they'd have 100 taels and could move to town. They'd find Su Qing a rich husband and live easy for the rest of their lives. It was all my fault for refusing. She poked her useless husband Su Daniu, who was lying on the bed doing nothing. "Say something. What are we going to do?" He barely rolled over. "What's the rush? Once the second family can't survive out there, they'll come crawling back." Then we ship that girl off to landlord Lin. Just tough it out for a few days. But what if they don't come back? What if they run away? That finally got him sitting up. He hadn't thought of that. Xunyang had been scheming all morning.
Here's what we do.
We get that 100 taels from your mother first. Tell her the academy teacher is offering special tutoring classes and that every student who attended passed the exam. She'll hand over the money in a heartbeat for her precious grandson. Once we have the cash, our whole family moves to Water Buffalo Town. Tell your mother Su Rue needs you there to cook and take care of him. You find some easy work or start a small business. Su Qing and Su Lei come along too. Su Qing is already 17. If we don't find her a husband soon, she'll be an old maid.
Su Rue is 15, Su Lei almost 14.
Other families have already started arranging marriages at their age. Su Daniu nodded slowly. It made sense. But he was too spineless to ask his mother for money. Just go. Now. Xunyang pinched his thigh hard. Just then, Su Qing came back with Su Rue. The girl looked nervous. Dad, if Su Changha doesn't come back, do you think Grandma will make me marry landlord Lin instead? Fear flashed across her face. I don't want to marry that old pervert. Hurry up and get the money so we can all leave for town. You promised me I'd marry someone important. Su Daniu sighed and dragged himself to Grandma's room. He paced back and forth outside her door, working up the nerve. Finally, he went in. Su Rue tagged along. Grandma looked up. Where's your wife? Inside. She'll sweep and do laundry later. Su Daniu pulled his stool closer and lowered his voice. Mom, I need to talk to you about something. The academy sent word. The teacher is offering special intensive classes for Su Rue. I heard that every student who attended those classes ended up passing the exam. While we were out making money, the old Su household was busy scheming themselves into a hole. Su Daniu walked into Grandma Li's room with Su Rue and fed her the lie they'd rehearsed. The teacher was offering special private tutoring, and every student who attended had passed the exam. Su Rue nodded along eagerly, laying it on thick. Grandma, the teacher told me personally. Hardly anyone knows about this opportunity. After I pass, I'll bring you to town to live the good life. That was all it took. Grandma melted like butter. My brilliant grandson. How much do you need? They'd plan this carefully. Ask too much and she'd refuse. Too little and they couldn't fund their escape to town.
Su Daniu pretendi to hesitate.
Well, we'd need to bring gifts for the teacher. Can't look cheap. Grandma thought it over. I'll give you 50 taels. Su Rue's eyes nearly popped out of his head. 50 taels. That was 5 years' income for a normal family, handed over for a few sweet words. Su Daniu played concerned. But Mom, isn't that money supposed to go back to landlord Lin? Grandma waved it off. Don't worry. I guarantee the second family will come crawling back within a week. Then we'll marry that girl off and get the money again. Right then, Grandpa came in carrying a huge bundle of firewood. He'd been doing manual labor for the first time in years and was already falling apart. When he heard Grandma was handing over 50 taels, his face went dark. Why so much? What if the second family doesn't come back? How do we repay landlord Lin? Grandma shut him down fast. They're living in a broken shed with no food and no money. Trust me, 3 days, 5 at most, and they'll be begging at our door. She painted him the same dream they always painted. Su Rue passes next spring. Taxes get waived. Money comes rolling in. They become grandparents of a scholar. Living the dream. And give them 20 caddies of stored rice and 5 caddies of white flour for Su Rue to take along. Grandpa's eyes went wide. If they take all that, what do we eat? We've got vegetables buried in the garden, cabbages and radishes. We'll dig those up and sell them in town. Plus all that firewood out back. It's fine. Grandpa sighed and looked at his oldest son, then at his grandson. Just one day without my father's labor, and his old bones were already aching. If our family truly never came back, he didn't know how long he could last. But Grandma's brainwashing won again.
He caved.
Su Dania's eyes lit up like lanterns when that silver hit his palm. He grabbed Su Rue and practically sprinted back to their room, handing the 50 taels straight to Xunyang. Their real plan had nothing to do with tutoring. They were going to take the money, pack up, and move the whole family to Water Buffalo Town. Find Su Qing a rich husband, set up some easy little business, and leave the two old folks behind to rot. Before leaving, Grandma added one more brilliant idea: call back her own daughter, the Su family's youngest sister, to come help with housework while the first household was away. She figured if Su Rue became a scholar, his aunt would benefit too, so she'd be happy to pitch in. Tonight we eat together, as a family. Tomorrow morning you leave for town. Oh, and tell your wife to sweep the yard and wash the clothes. Su Dainiu was grinning so wide his face might split. Sure thing, Mom. Right away. After they left, Grandpa sat alone puffing his pipe. Something felt wrong. His eyelid had been twitching since yesterday. All these years they'd squeezed every penny to fund Su Rue's education. Every year the boy promised he'd pass. Every year, he failed. Now 50 taels, landlord Lin's bride price, was walking out the door. If our family never came back and they couldn't repay it, what then? He sucked hard on his pipe, but couldn't shake the dread settling in his gut. While we were busy building our new life, the old Su house was turning into a nest of scheming snakes, every single one of them after that 100 taels. Grandpa sat puffing his pipe, still uneasy. Something doesn't feel right about all this. Grandma waved him off. Hemiao will have to marry sooner or later. Stop worrying. Before they could even send someone to fetch their daughter from the neighboring village, she showed up on her own. Su Yueme, my father's younger sister. She came wailing at the gate, like the world was ending. That rotten husband of mine is cheating on me.
Mom, Dad.
Open the door. He Xianyang was sweeping the yard when she heard the crying and froze. Her first thought was about the money. Every time there was cash in this household, the little sister-in-law appeared like a shark smelling blood. She'd cry, grab some silver, and disappear the same day. He Xianyang dropped the broom and rushed inside. She found Su Dainiu sitting on the bed counting silver coins one by one with the biggest grin she'd ever seen on his face. He was already planning how to spend it. 2 taels for renting a place in town, 10 for Su Rue's tuition, 5 for household expenses, and the remaining 30 plus. He'd heard from a neighbor about a fancy pleasure house in Water Buffalo Town with beautiful girls. He wanted to see for himself. He Xianyang burst in so fast he nearly choked. He shoved the silver inside his shirt. The little sister is here, He Xianyang hissed. She's crying at the gate right now. Su Dainiu frowned. They hadn't even sent for her yet. Why was she here already? She must have heard about the money and came to grab her share. He Xianyang said. You need to get the rest of the silver from your mother before your sister takes it. How? Tell her the tutor needs gifts. She'll hand it over. Outside, Su Yueme was putting on an award-winning performance. She dabbed her eyes and sniffled dramatically as Grandma rushed to open the gate. Yueme, what happened? Oh, Mom, my mother-in-law is terrible. She says our family is too poor. She makes me cook, sweep, wash clothes in freezing water. Look at my poor hands. She rolled up her sleeves to show her wrists. She hadn't lost a single pound. If anything, she'd gained weight. But Grandma clutched her chest in sympathy anyway. How dare she? Making you do chores in this cold. That woman doesn't treat you like a human being. He Xianyang stood outside the door listening and nearly spat. So when Grandma's daughter has to cook and clean, it's abuse. But when she made my mother do the exact same things for over a decade, that was perfectly fine. She couldn't help herself and walked in with her arms crossed. Oh look, little sister is back again. What did your husband do this time? Cooking and cleaning? That's nothing. I'm doing the same right now. Funny how your mother never seems to feel sorry for me though. Guess I'm not her real flesh and blood. Grandma snapped at He Xianyang to leave and take over all the chores herself. He Xianyang smiled and sighed. At least she'd gotten the old woman to agree to do her own daughter's share. Once they were alone, mother and daughter chatted casually for a while. Then Su Yueme steered the conversation exactly where she wanted it. Mom, I heard from the village that you split with second brother's family? What happened? She played dumb, pretending she knew nothing about the 100 taels. Grandma sighed. It was all because of that Hemiao girl. I found her a great marriage, but your brother and his wife refused. A great marriage? They should be grateful. Why would they refuse? It's landlord Lin from the next village. Marrying a landlord. What amazing luck. Well, he's older than your father. Oh, Su Yume paused, then circled in for the kill. But the bride price must have been pretty generous, right? 100 taels. Su Yume's eyes lit up. Her husband's tip had been right after all. That's exactly what she'd come for. Back at the old Su house, the vultures were fighting over the carcass. Su Yume's eyes went wide at the number. 100 taels. Who knew I was worth that much? She grabbed Grandma's hand. So, Mom, how are you planning to split the money? Well, Su Rue needs it for school, and your brother's family doesn't earn much, so naturally it goes to them. Su Yume's face fell. She was Grandma's daughter too. How come nobody ever thought of her? Mom, you're being so unfair. You didn't even think to give me a single coin. My in-laws look down on me because our family is poor. The other daughters-in-law all come from rich families. Their mothers-in-law treat them like queens. But me? My dowry was one wooden hairpin. Nobody respects me. She squeezed out some tears. Mom, lend me 50 taels. Once my husband's business picks up, I'll pay you back with interest. Right on cue, Xunyang pushed through the curtain with a plate of snacks. She'd been listening at the wall the entire time. Every time the little sister-in-law came home, it was the same routine: cry, borrow money, load up on food, and vanish. Little sister, every time you fight with your husband, you run home. Your man's been doing business for years. Hasn't he made anything? If he were any good, your in-laws wouldn't dare disrespect you. And our house is small. You can't keep coming and staying forever. Su Qing is grown now, and can't keep sharing a bed with us. Su Yume fired back. This is my parents' home. Are you saying I can't even visit my own mother? And you didn't even bring her a single thing either. I came in a hurry and forgot. Forgot? You never bring anything. You just come to take. Su Dainyu walked in with the silver safely hidden in his shirt. He backed up his wife. Little sister, if you really care about Mom, bring her gifts. Or take her to live with you. Su Yume exploded. What is this? Mom and Dad aren't dead yet. Since when do you two make the rules? As long as they're alive. This is my home too. Then she aimed at their weak spot. And let's talk about Su Rue. 7 years of schooling, and he can't even pass the basic exam. The kid in our village started 2 years later and passed last year. All those years of tuition money, do you know how much that cost? If it weren't for funding that useless education, I would have had a proper dowry. You should be grateful to me. Not kicking me out. Before she married, Grandma had promised her 5 taels and some jewelry as dowry. But Su Dainyu and Xunyang convinced her to give it up for Su Rue's tuition. She'd been bitter about it ever since. Su Dainyu and Xunyang couldn't argue back. They tried to smooth things over. Little sister, we remember what you sacrificed. Once Su Rue passes, you'll benefit too. You'll be a scholar's aunt. Your in-laws won't dare look down on you, Su Yume sneered. She'd heard that promise 1,000 times. Scholar this, scholar that, how many years had it been? She used to believe it. Not anymore. Mom, you heard them. Big brother and his wife clearly don't want me here. Fine. I won't come back much. But you owe me my dowry. 5 taels, plus all these years of interest, that comes to 50. Su Dainyu nearly swallowed his tongue. 5 taels turning into 50? That was robbery. Xunyang jumped in. Even loan sharks don't charge that much, Su Yume snorted. If my husband had invested that 5 taels in business, 50 would be nothing. 100 would have been possible. I'm being generous asking for just 50. Su Dainyu panicked. If Grandma actually gave his sister 50 taels, there went his pleasure house money. Mom, say something. She's asking for your life savings. Grandma was torn. She loved her daughter, but the first household always came first. Yume, your brother is right. I can give you the 5 taels I originally promised. But 50 is too much. Su Rue needs the money for his studies. Sons carry the family name, that has to come first. You're a married woman now, dear. You understand how it works. Grandma shooed Xunyang and Su Dainyu out of the room, one to pack Su Rue's things for his trip to town, the other to help Grandpa bundle firewood to sell at market. At the doorway, Xunyang hissed at her husband. Why didn't you get all 100 taels? If your mother gives 50 to your sister, what happens to us? I don't care how you do it, get that money. After they left, Grandma patted Su Yume's hand gently. I know you've sacrificed a lot for this family. That's why whenever you took rice and things from our house, I never said a word. I also know it's been 3 years, and you still haven't had a baby. People talk. That must be hard. She offered 10 taels. Su Yueme's lip trembled. Grandma had hit her sore spot. Her husband's family looked down on her, and without a child, the whispers were getting louder. Money could keep a man close, but not forever. She knew that. But in this world, a married woman had no choice but to depend on her husband. Mom, I'm so unhappy. She let the tears flow. Grandma pulled her close. I know a traditional doctor who might help. Stay a few days and I'll take you to see him. But will big brother and sister-in-law allow it? Su Rue leaves for town tomorrow. You'll sleep in his room. And your sister-in-law stays here. Someone has to cook and clean now that your brother's wife is gone. Su Yueme pressed harder. Mom, 10 is too little. Give me 30. I'll pay you back with interest once my husband makes money. 30 taels was no small amount. But thinking about her daughter suffering at her in-law's house softened Grandma's iron heart. Before coming, Su Yueme's husband Lin Fugue had coached her well. Get the money, and he'd take her to town for a good life. If she didn't grab it, he Xianyang would take it all anyway. Su Yueme went full assault with the sweet talk. Mom, you want me to be happy, right? Before, when there was no money, I understood Su Rue needed it for school. But now you have 100 taels and you won't even lend me 30. The tears poured like a faucet someone forgot to turn off. Grandma wavered. I can give you 20 at most. But you have 100. 30 still leaves you 70. The New Year season is prime business time. Fugue just needs the capital. If he profits, we split it with you. If he loses, I pay back every coin. She dangled the magic words, interest, profits, retirement. Fugue said once business is good, he'll rent a place in town. You can come live with us. I'll take care of you in your old age. We'll even hire a servant so you don't have to lift a finger. Then the final push. And honestly, Mom, between us, Su Rue has studied for how many years now? He still can't pass. I don't think he's cut out for it. If you'd given that money to Fugue for business years ago, you'd be living in a big house in town by now instead of stuck in this village. And don't tell Big Brother about this. You know how his wife is, 800 schemes running in that head of hers. She's probably already eyeing every coin in your pocket. The sweet talking worked. Grandma went to her wardrobe and pulled out 30 taels. Yueme, this is all we have. This is your father's and my coffin money. Tell Fugue to be careful with it. If this money doesn't come back after New Year, we're finished. Su Yueme snatched it up, beaming.
Mom, relax.
You know how sharp Fugue is. Just wait. You'll be living the good life with your daughter. Grandma nodded slowly. Maybe it was smart to have a backup plan. If the first household turned out like her daughter warned, at least she'd have Su Yueme to fall back on. But as that silver left her hands, her heart ached something fierce. Out of 100 taels from selling me, 50 had gone to the first household, 30 to her daughter, and she'd spent some on new clothes and supplies. That fortune was bleeding away fast. Yueme, I mean it, tell Fugue to invest carefully. If this money doesn't come back, we can't survive. How can you not survive? You still have 70 taels. That's enough for you and Dad to eat for years, Grandma sighed. Su Rue's tuition alone costs over 10 taels a year. If he passes next spring, wonderful. If he doesn't, we'll need every coin to keep going. She reminded her daughter over and over to be careful. But the money was already gone. While Mom and I were in town making real money, the old Su house was tearing itself apart over the 100 taels they got from selling me. Su Yueme stuffed the 30 taels into her bundle the second Grandma handed it over. She couldn't sit still for another minute. Mom, I need to get this to Fugue right away. You just sit back and wait for your interest payments. Grandma tried to get her to stay for a meal, but she was already halfway out the door. He Xianyang spotted her clutching that bundle tight and knew instantly she'd scored money from the old woman. She blocked the gate. Didn't you say you were staying a few days? Now you're leaving without even eating? What's in that bundle? Su Yueme lifted her chin. My mother's stuff. I'll take it if I want. Mind your own business. Maybe spend that energy worrying about your son, who can't pass an exam after all these years. He Xianyang's teeth nearly cracked. The two women started pulling at the bundle. He Xunyang managed to rip it open for a split second, and her eyes went huge.
Silver.
Lots of it. Why do you have so much money in there? Suyuame snatched it back lightning fast. Mom invested it in our business. None of your concern. A crowd had gathered at the gate by now. Villagers eating corn buns and sipping thin gruel, watching the show. Among them was the village chief's daughter-in-law, the young wife whose husband my father had saved from a bad fall. She couldn't keep quiet. Oh, is that the money from selling him now? Already spending it, are you? Gave the second family a sack of husks and a broken shed, and now you're dividing up the bride price like it's payday? Just waiting for them to starve and crawl back, so you can force the girl into marriage? Shameless. He Xunyang snorted without looking at who was talking. Our family business is none of yours. Girls get married. What's the big deal? The Lin family is rich. She'd eat well there. If it's so great, why not send your Su Qing? My Su Qing is precious. Once Su Rui passes his exam, she'll marry into a proper noble family. Hemiao can't compare. Your daughter is treasure and theirs is trash? Have you looked in a mirror? Hemiao is gorgeous. Anyone can see she's got real fortune ahead of her. Your Su Qing can't hold a candle. He Xunyang laughed like she'd heard the funniest joke in the world. Fortune? Without my Su Rui to lean on, that girl is nothing. Watch. 5 days tops. That whole family comes crawling back begging. The chief's daughter-in-law smiled coolly. And if they don't, then you'll have to send Su Qing to pay the debt. He Xunyang was shaking with rage, but couldn't do a thing. She didn't dare pick a fight with the village chief's family. So she turned all her fury on Su Yume. The money stays. You can leave. She was thinking ahead now. If our family never came back, Grandma would definitely try to marry Su Qing off to landlord Lin instead. She couldn't let the money disappear. Listen here, mother-in-law. If you give the silver to your daughter and the second family doesn't come back, don't even think about touching my Su Qing. I won't allow it. Grandma's face went dark as coal. The whole village was watching her family fight over money like dogs over a bone. So humiliating. Everyone go home. Nothing to see. Every family has problems, she yelled at the crowd. Then she turned on He Xunyang. Haven't I given your family enough? Fighting over a few taels with your own sister-in-law? She's borrowing it for business. She'll pay it back. He Xunyang almost choked on her own anger. Pay it back? When has she ever paid anything back? Name one time. Su Yume fired right back. Her original dowry had been 5 taels and some jewelry, but the first household begged her to give it up for Su Rui's tuition. She was young and foolish then. After she married into the Lin family with practically nothing, her mother-in-law treated her like dirt and her sisters-in-law looked down on her. All because her dowry was pathetic. So don't lecture me about conscience. Grandpa came out from the backyard with his firewood and found his daughter-in-law and daughter wrestling on the ground. His wrinkled brow furrowed deeper than ever. What is wrong with all of you? When the second family was here, none of this ever happened. He puffed his pipe and stared at the chaos. That uneasy feeling in his gut was getting stronger. What if our family really never came back? What if we ran away? How would they fill that hole? Back at the old Su house, Grandma sat at the worn table staring at a few corn buns, lost in thought. Su Rui had passed the entry-level exam at 9 years old. Back then, she'd bragged to everyone that the Su family would produce a real scholar. The whole village envied them. But years had passed and Su Rui was still stuck at the lowest level. Quitting felt wasteful. Continuing felt like pouring water into a bottomless pit. Su Rui, tell me honestly, what are your real chances of passing next spring? The question froze the entire table. Su Rui looked at his mother, then at his father. Neither knew what to say. He Xunyang jumped in fast. Mom, the teacher promised to help. As long as we take care of things on our end, there shouldn't be a problem. She kicked Su Rui under the table. Yeah, Grandma. With the teacher helping, I'll definitely make it. Grandma sighed, tears in her eyes. She got up and brought out every last bit of stored rice and white flour the family had.
Su Rui, you must work harder this time.
Your grandpa and I are counting on you to bring glory to this family. Even if we have to sell the pots off our stove, we'll keep funding your education. Don't let me down. Su Rui didn't actually care about studying. He hated hard work, and school meant no chores and good food. Between farming and sitting in a classroom, the choice was obvious.
Don't worry, Grandma.
I'll do my best. Then came the question of who would go with him. He Xunyang had no intention of staying behind to slave away for Grandma. She kicked Su Rui under the table again. Grandma, this is special tutoring. The school kitchen isn't open. If Mom doesn't come, who cooks for me? Who washes my clothes? Grandma reluctantly agreed to let Su Dainyu go along to take care of him. But He Xunyang had to stay and handle the housework. He Xunyang was seething inside. The old woman's own son was a person, but she wasn't? All because she wasn't blood family. Fine then. Once Su Rui passed, they'd settle in town and never set foot in this rotten village again. Of course, Mom. I'll come right back after getting them settled. Then came the moment He Xunyang had been waiting for. Grandma had already given them 50 taels, but now, worried about Su Rui needing extra money, she gritted her teeth and pulled out her last 10-something taels. Everything she and Grandpa had left. Their coffin money. He Xunyang's eyes locked onto those silver pieces like a hawk spotting a rabbit. This is the last of what your father and I have saved for our burial, Grandma said, her voice tight. Su Rui is the root of this family. Only if he succeeds can your father and I live well in our old age. Take care of it. Don't let him go hungry. Then she talked, and kept talking the same few sentences over and over, just wanting Su Rui to feel grateful. The whole family was losing patience. Finally, Su Qing snatched the silver right out of Grandma's hand. Enough. Are we sleeping tonight or not? If we miss the ox cart tomorrow morning, whose fault is that? He Xunyang pretended to scold her daughter, but was laughing inside. Smart girl. Grandma didn't even get angry. She spoiled those first household kids too much to ever get mad. After everyone went to bed, just the two old people were left at the table. Grandpa puffed his pipe. Grandma stared at nothing. She'd given away everything. Every last coin. If Su Rui failed again, she already had a backup plan, my two little sisters. In a couple years, Nyonyo and Daodu would grow up. They were already showing signs of being beautiful. She could sell them too. Su Rui's education had to continue no matter what. Only a scholar could lift the Su family out of poverty. That was her obsession, and nothing would change it. Her immediate concern was how long our family could survive out there. She was still counting the days until we'd come crawling back. Meanwhile, at our little shelter, my mother lifted the lid off the pot, and a wave of delicious smell filled the air. In all her years married into the Su family, she'd never seen this much meat. She scooped some vegetables and a few slices of meat into a bowl and told me to bring it to Chief Ho's family and pick up my sisters on the way. I nodded. Before I left, I secretly added a few extra pieces of meat to the bowl. I had an experiment to run. I already knew vegetables triggered the 10 times cashback. But would cooked meat work too? Chief Ho. Mrs. Liu. Are you home? I stood outside their door in the dark, holding a warm bowl of meat and broth. Chief Ho's younger daughter-in-law, Liu Yuanyang, poked her head out. Who's there? It's me, Himiao. I'm here to pick up Nyonyo and Daodu. From inside, I heard her husband, the one with the injured leg, telling her to hurry and open up so I wouldn't freeze. She came out and immediately caught the smell of meat. When you haven't had any in ages, your nose picks it up instantly.
Come in.
Don't stand out in the cold. Your sisters already ate and fell asleep with Mrs. Liu. They were very good. She lit a precious candle, something they rarely did because oil was expensive. Everyone in the village ate before dark and went straight to bed. She started heading to the kitchen to get me some corn buns, but I stopped her. I already ate, Auntie. My mom sent this for Uncle, to help him recover. I uncovered the bowl, and the whole room filled with the smell of cooked meat. Her eyes lit up. In times like these, meat was a luxury, even during New Year. She happily took it to the kitchen to divide, some for the family, the rest for her husband. The doctor had said eating well would help him heal faster, maybe even walk again. Then she suddenly stopped. She brought the meat back and looked at me with worried eyes. Himiao, tell me the truth. Did the Su family force you? Is this from that bride price money? Because if it is, I can't eat it. I'll have your grandpa host step in tomorrow. My heart went warm. She'd rather go without meat than eat something bought with money from selling me. These neighbors cared more about me than my own grandparents ever did. Auntie, this is from money Mom and I earned ourselves. We found wild vegetables in the mountains yesterday and sold them at a good price in town today. So Mom bought some meat for us kids to taste for the first time. She said Uncle needs to eat well to get better. Please don't refuse. Relief flooded her face. How could I refuse? This is more meat than we'd see even at New Year. She offered to keep watching Nyonyo and Dowdu for the next few days so my parents and I could focus on building our shelter. Your Mrs. Liu is already looking after grandkids. 2 more is nothing. You 3 need to get that house up before the last big snowstorm hits. I've heard it could be bad this year. Her eyes went red when she mentioned her husband's leg. The doctor had said maybe he could walk again. That maybe carried more comfort than certainty. Don't be sad, Auntie. Good people get good fortune. Uncle will walk again. I'm sure of it. She nodded and wiped her eyes. From your lips to heaven's ears. Since my sisters were already asleep in a warm room, it made no sense to carry them through the freezing night. I'd come back for them in the morning. Before leaving, I pulled 2 more liang of raw meat from my basket and pressed it into her hands. For looking after them these next few days. She tried to refuse. Even without gifts, I'd take care of those girls. Your father saved my husband's life. We'll never forget that debt. Ding. 10x cashback activated. 10 bowls of cooked meat returned. Store it. Just as I thought, anything I gave the Ho family triggered the cashback. The cooked meat worked too, not just vegetables. I insisted she keep the raw meat until she finally accepted. The moment I stepped outside their gate, ding. 10x cashback. 2 caddies of pork returned. My mind was racing now. With this pork and the stored food, our family could last quite a while. But I was already thinking bigger. Could I plant seeds inside the farm system's fields? I'd already cracked the money code. Give food to the Ho family, get 10 times back. But what about silver? If I gave them a coin, would I get 10 coins back? What about cloth? Or face cream? If it all worked the same way, I wouldn't just survive this winter. I'd get rich. I clutched my coat tight against the cold and ran home, my head spinning with plans. Tomorrow I'd test it with fabric. And Mom's snow flour cream. If those worked too, I could flip anything for 10 times its value. I'd found my golden ticket. I was so excited about my discovery that I barely slept all night. The next morning I woke up early. My parents had already left for the mountain to dig red clay for filling the wall gaps. Last night's leftover meat was still warm in the pot. I ate a few quick bites, then swept out the shelter and cleared the snow from around it, making a nice open space. I straightened up and looked at what I'd done. Just 1 room and 1 bed, but it was clean, solid, and didn't leak wind anymore. The cleared yard in front looked almost like the dream cottage I'd always imagined in my old life. Add 2 more rooms, and it'd be perfect. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, rolled up sleeves showing a sliver of pale wrist. Even malnourished, this body was naturally graceful. No wonder people called the original me the prettiest girl in 10 villages. What I didn't know was that someone was watching. At the village entrance, a man sat on horseback wearing a fox fur cloak and a jade crown. His servant led the horse, bowing and scraping. There, sir, that's the place. This was Lin Dequan, landlord Lin's only son, his late-in-life child. He'd heard his father spent 100 taels on a new concubine and came to see what all the fuss was about. One look at me, and his eyes nearly fell out of his skull. His heart hammered. He licked his lips. She's not just pretty, she's like a goddess. That figure, those lines, he was already scheming. The moment he got the chance, he'd sample the goods, before his father ever touched me. His servant asked if they should come closer. Lin Dequan waved him off.
No.
Go straight to the Sioux house. In this world, parents decide marriages. Get the family on board, and the girl is mine. Meanwhile, Grandma Lee had just sent the first household off toward town. She turned the corner and found a servant holding a horse outside her gate, with a richly dressed young man sitting on top looking thoroughly disgusted by his surroundings. The servant spoke first, dripping arrogance. Is this the home of Sue Benfin? Grandma nodded nervously. Who are you? This is our young master. You took 100 taels from the Lin family. Remember now? Or were you planning to cheat us? The blood drained from Grandma's face. Lin family. They were here. She scrambled to open the gate. Lin Daquan dismounted and walked inside without a single polite word, looking at everything like he was stepping through garbage. He didn't even try to hide his contempt for poor people. Grandma was terrified he'd come to demand the money back. She plastered on her most pathetic smile. What brings you all the way here in this cold weather, sir? We're here to check on our purchase, the servant said bluntly. You took 100 taels. We need to see the merchandise. Our master is very satisfied with what he saw. The question is, when are you delivering her? Grandma nearly collapsed with relief. They weren't asking for the money back. But she didn't know what to say. Our family hadn't come crawling back yet. She could only smile awkwardly and stall. Lin Daquan saw right through her. His face hardened. Don't play games with us. If you don't deliver the girl, there will be consequences. You have half a month. He didn't bother waiting for an answer. In his mind, buying a girl was no different from buying livestock. He stood up and walked out. Being around poor people too long was bad luck, he said. After he left, Grandma spat on the ground. Who does that little rich boy think he is? Wait until Su Rue becomes a scholar, then a ranked official, then top of the court. Then we'll see who dares look down on us. She was disgusted, but she'd smiled and bowed the entire time he was there. Only after he was long gone did she drop the act. She tugged Grandpa's sleeve. What did that servant call him? Grandpa blinked. I think he said, young master. Grandma's eyes went wide. Young master, not old master? Could the matchmaker have gotten it wrong? Maybe I wasn't supposed to be the old man's concubine at all. Maybe I was meant to marry this young man? That girl really does have good luck, she muttered. At least they hadn't demanded the money today. And half a month was enough time. She was still betting everything on our family breaking down and coming back to beg. On the road home, Lin Daquan couldn't stop thinking about the glimpse of my wrist he'd caught while spying on me. His skin crawled with anticipation. A shame I was still so young, he thought. Give me a couple more years, and I'd be a true beauty. He had no idea I'd sooner burn his whole estate down than let him touch me. At the village entrance, Lin Daquan pulled his horse to stop for one last look at me. His servant knew his master's appetites all too well. Sir, it's only half a month. Lin Daquan swallowed hard. He was 30 years old and had never been this worked up over a girl before. Just half a month, and he'd get his hands on me, before his own father ever could. Back to the estate. Have the tailor make me some new outfits. And tell the kitchen to stew deer antler and tiger whip. I need to build up my strength. He sat on his horse fantasizing about our wedding night. This disgusting creep was already planning everything. His servant grinned and bowed. If needed, I can arrange some dirty tricks too, sir. No need. Just half a month. They rode off, leaving hoof prints in the snow. I looked up from my work and caught a glimpse of someone on horseback disappearing over the hill. Our village was dirt poor. No idea who'd have a rich relative visiting. I didn't think much of it and went back to work. I stayed busy all morning. Besides cooking meals, I made cured meat from our leftovers. If the curing worked out, we could sell it during New Year and make a killing. Around noon, I heard shouting from the road. Hey!
Slow down.
What's the rush? Two young men were walking toward the village, pushing and teasing each other. I recognized the taller one from the original story, Ho Junsheng, Chief Ho's oldest grandson. He was in his early 20s, working as a bookkeeper at a tailor shop in town, good-looking in an honest, clean-cut way. Matchmakers constantly came knocking, but he'd turned down every single girl. His buddy was his childhood best friend, the kind of friendship where they'd share the same pair of pants. Are you rushing home because your wife ran off with someone? The friend teased. Ho Junsheng frowned. What wife? I don't have one. Then why are you walking so fast? The friend grinned wickedly. Oh, I get it. You want to see him meow, don't you? Right at that moment, I happened to look in their direction. Ho Junsheng's face went bright red. He lunged to cover his friend's mouth. Shut up. Don't ruin a girl's reputation. The friend dodged away like a greased eel, laughing. I knew it. You've got feelings for the Su family's meow. Can't blame you though. Honestly, I kind of like her too. Pretty and hardworking. Whoever marries her hits the jackpot. Ho Junsheng was panicking now, especially since I was looking their way. He grabbed his friend by the collar. Your dog mouth can't spit out ivory. See? You're getting worked up. If you didn't have feelings for her, why would you care? Want me to go over and say hi for you? The friend started walking toward me. Ho Junsheng yanked him back by the neck. You go near her, and I swear. Oh, so she is yours then? You just admitted it. They were too far away for me to hear what they were saying. I just saw two guys horsing around on the path, which seemed perfectly normal. They eventually split at a fork in the road, one heading east, one west. The friend waved goodbye and took off running like a rabbit. Ho Junsheng stood at the crossroads and looked in my direction. When he saw I was looking back, his face turned red again. He just nodded at me quietly. I knew from the original story that he'd always been kind to the previous me. The Ho family had been nothing but good to us. So I waved cheerfully. Junsheng, you're back, he smiled shyly and nodded. Need any help? He squeezed out the words like they cost him money. I'm fine. I can handle it. I gave him my brightest smile. He stood there frozen for a second, like spring wind had just blown through his chest. Then, without another word, he pulled a small wrapped package from his coat, handed it to me, and walked away so fast you'd think his house was on fire. By the time I processed what happened, he was already gone. I opened the package. Snacks. A whole bag of them. I looked at the little treats, then at his retreating figure, and smiled. What a nice guy. I had absolutely no idea he had feelings for me. Around noon, the sun finally came out, though the snow on the ground stayed frozen solid. I pulled out some meat and checked my farm system. I managed to steal 2 cabbages and some garlic sprouts from landlord Lin's fields, but his crops were running low. If he harvested everything, I'd have nothing left to take. I needed to unlock the planting feature in my own farm space soon. Depending on other people's fields wasn't a long-term plan. After a busy morning, I'd cooked up a big pot of meat stew. It smelled incredible. I covered the pot tight and set it aside. This afternoon when Dad got back, we'd build a fence around our yard. Then this place would finally look like a real home. I wiped my hands, grabbed a bowl of meat for the Ho family, and headed over to pick up my sisters. At Chief Ho's house, the whole family was buzzing with excitement. Their oldest grandson, Ho Junsheng, had come home. Mrs. Liu was fussing over him, checking every inch like he might be missing a piece. Half a year, and you've gotten bigger. Grandma's so happy. Junsheng worked as a bookkeeper at a tailor shop in town. He'd come back early because the shop was giving workers a break before the New Year rush. He wouldn't be home for the actual holiday, though. The pay would be triple during that time. He laid out everything he'd brought: cloth for his grandmother, snowflower cream for his aunt, pipe tobacco for his grandfather, and 8 taels of silver he'd saved over 6 months. Use this for Uncle's leg treatment, Mrs. Liu's eyes glistened. Her grandson might not be destined for greatness, but he had a good heart. Keep some for yourself. You'll need it when you get married. Speaking of which, the matchmaker from the next village came by again. She knows a lovely girl, 17, from a good family. Your grandpa and I were thinking of checking her out for you. Junsheng's face didn't change. Grandma, I'm not ready to get married yet. Not ready? You're past 20. At your age, your father already had a 3-year-old. Is something wrong with you? She studied his face, rosy lips, clear skin, perfectly healthy looking. Do you already have someone in mind? He didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. Mrs. Liu slapped her knee with delight.
Who is she?
Tell Grandma. We'll send the matchmaker tomorrow. Grandma, let's wait a bit. If we rush in, we might scare her off. Before Junsheng ate, he went to visit his uncle, the one with the broken leg. The room was dim, curtains drawn. His uncle had been a strong, proud man before the accident. Now his family had sold their townhouse and pawned every piece of jewelry to pay for treatment. They'd gone from comfortable to crammed into these few rooms. His uncle lay still on the bed. The doctor says there's still hope, but the medicine costs 2 taels a month. I don't want to be a burden. You're at the age to find a wife. Don't waste your money on me. Junsheng grabbed his hand. If the doctor says there's hope, we keep going. A few tough years, and it'll be over. You have to get better, Uncle. You're the backbone of this family. Just as they were sitting down to eat, I showed up at the gate. Mrs. Liu.
Auntie.
When he opened the gate, I smiled at him brightly. Junsheng. He managed a quiet, but his hands moved fast to let me through. We walked toward the house, me in front, him behind. I had no idea he was watching my back with a soft smile. Inside, my little sisters were already eating. Nyonya was old enough to be neat about it. Little Dauda had a tiny bib Mrs. Liu had tied around her neck, so thoughtful, since poor families could barely afford to wash clothes that got dirty. The moment they spotted me, both girls forgot their food completely. They jumped up and crashed into my arms. Big sister, Meow. Come in, sit down. Why do you keep bringing us food, Mrs. Liu welcomed me warmly. I set the basket on the table and lifted the cover. The smell of cooked meat filled the room instantly. Little Qing, the Ho family's young grandson, spotted it first. Meat. Sister Meow, did your family get rich? You have meat every day, I laughed. That's right. I'm rich now. Pretty soon I'll have you all eating meat daily. But Mrs. Liu looked worried instead of happy. Meow, tell me honestly, did you agree to the Lin family marriage? Marriage? What marriage? Ho Junqing's reaction was even bigger than mine. He shot up from his stool so fast, everyone jumped. What do you mean, sold to landlord Lin? Mrs. Liu sighed and explained everything, how Grandma had taken 100 taels to sell me off. Junqing's face went through about 5 emotions in 2 seconds. Then, he caught himself when he noticed his family staring at him. He quickly covered. That landlord Lin is ancient, older than Grandpa Su. A girl as talented as Miao deserves a proper match. What was Grandma Li even thinking? This is a lifelong decision, Mrs. Liu snorted. You think she doesn't know? She doesn't care. All she wants is money for her precious first household. Seeing everyone so upset on my behalf made my heart feel warm. I set down the bowl and reassured them. Don't worry. We've already split the family. Even if they don't return the money, it's their problem now. As long as my parents say no, the Lin family can't touch me. Junsheng let out a long, quiet breath of relief. He glanced at me, and something soft flickered in his eyes. I thanked Mrs. Liu again for watching my sisters and said we needed to get home for lunch. As we reached the door, she called after us. Your Junsheng is home now. If your father needs help building, just holler. Junsheng kept his face perfectly calm, but I could have sworn something sparked behind his eyes. Actually, Dad's planning to build 2 more shelters this afternoon. If Junsheng could help, that'd be amazing. Of course. He's got nothing better to do. And bring the little ones over again if you're busy. I gathered my basket, took Nunio's hand in my right and Dauda's in my left, and headed out.
Ding.
10x cashback. 10 bowls of stir-fried meat returned. I stored them in my space without breaking stride, humming a little tune as we walked home. Big sister, why didn't you come get us last night? Nunio's voice was small. I thought she was upset with me, but then her lip trembled. We were so scared. We thought Grandma sold you, and that's why you didn't come. We'll be really good, we promise. Just don't leave us. She was 6 years old.
6.
And already worried about being abandoned. My chest ached. I rubbed her messy little head. I came, but you were both already asleep. It was late and cold. Carrying you home would have made you sick. That's all. So you don't have to marry that old man. No. We split from Grandma's family. As long as Mom and Dad say no, nobody can make me, but Grandma took all that money. If she can't pay it back, won't they sell you anyway? For a 6-year-old, she was terrifyingly sharp. Don't worry. Mom and Dad will protect me. Both sisters shook their heads like little rattles. No more worrying. When we got back to our shelter, Mom was already there with a bundle of firewood. The second she'd noticed I was gone, she'd panicked and was about to run for Dad. Then she saw the 3 of us, strolling up the path. Mommy, Mommy. The girls broke free and sprinted into her arms. She crouched down and wrapped them up tight, kissing their faces, breathing them in. Did you miss Mommy? Yes. I even dreamed about you. I dreamed Daddy built us a really, really big house. Dowda stretched her tiny arms as wide as they could go. Dad set down his carrying pole and smiled. Leaving the Sioux family was the best decision we'd ever made. The girls scrambled from Mom's arms to Dad's. Daddy, are you tired? Nyonya will pat your legs. Dowda will rub your shoulders. Is dinner ready? Dowda's a little hungry. Can we have meat again? It's so yummy. Just 2 days of eating properly, and already their faces had more color, their lips looked pinker, their skin less papery. Dad looked at them, and his eyes filled with tears. All those wasted years. His mother's favoritism. Why hadn't he seen it sooner? He believed family meant everything. But to people who didn't love you, you were worth less than grass. Little Dowda reached up and touched the tear rolling down his cheek. She wiped it off with her tiny finger and popped it in her mouth. Daddy, why do you have little beans on your face? They're salty. Are you crying? She licked her finger again thoughtfully. Daddy's tears taste just like mine and sister's. They're salty too. We were having a warm family moment when an ugly voice ruined it. Grandma Lee showed up at our place with a face like everyone owed her money. I spotted her instantly.
What do you want?
You're not welcome here. She looked around and noticed our broken-down cowshed had been turned into an actual livable home. That clearly wasn't what she'd expected. We already split the family, I snapped. Your useless oldest son has left, so don't come here bossing us around. She started her usual routine, calling herself our grandmother, saying Dad came from her body, calling my mother a bad parent, calling us ungrateful, calling us money losers. Same insults, same poison. My father's face went dark as iron. Before, he'd bite his tongue, because she was his mother. Not anymore. We've split. My wife and daughters are none of your business. And my daughter's right. You're not welcome here. Don't step foot on our land again without my permission. She was shocked. Her quiet, obedient son had never talked to her like this. Then she dropped the real reason she'd come. I'm here to tell you, the Lin family is coming to collect in half a month. My blood went cold. I blocked her path. Say that again. What do you mean, collect? You heard me. I stared her down hard. We've split. It's in writing. The village chief witnessed it. If you try anything, don't blame me for what happens. You threatening me? She puffed up. Go ahead. Hit your own grandmother. Let the whole village watch. My mother had heard enough. All those years of being quiet, being obedient, following every rule, and what did it get her? Beatings, insults, and someone trying to sell her daughter. Meanwhile, Xionyang threw tantrums and got everything she wanted. Being nice just made you a target. Mom grabbed the broom and swung it at Grandma Lee. She didn't care about being called a shrew anymore. Her daughter's future mattered more than her reputation. Grandma stumbled backward, terrified. You'll come crawling back in a few days, and I won't be so kind next time. I laughed coldly. Come back to you? Keep dreaming. Then I hit her where it really hurt. That landlord Lin isn't someone you mess with. I heard he had a man beaten to death over a few taels of silver. You took 100 from him. Think about how much that stings him. People like us are worth less than dogs to people like him. If he kills one of you over it, all he has to do is slip the magistrate some silver, and it's over. Her face changed. Instead of scheming against us, you should be figuring out how to pay that money back. Let me guess, you already gave every last coin to the first household. Now you have nothing to return, so you came here thinking we'd cave, and I'd just march over to the Lin estate like a good little girl. Or maybe from the very beginning, your plan was simple. Give the 100 taels to the first household, wait for us to starve, and when we came begging, force me into the marriage anyway. That way they get the money, and I get sold. Well, your plan has a big problem. We're never coming back. Even if we had to flee as refugees, we'd never beg you for anything. And honestly, we weren't fleeing anywhere. We had rice, meat, grain, and soon we'd have silver too. Stop worrying about me and start worrying about yourself. How are you going to fill that hole? Grandma's legs went weak. She suddenly remembered that man Lin had killed really was beaten to death for trying to cheat him out of money. Her face turned white as paper. Don't try to scare me, she stammered, tongue tripping over itself. I know exactly what game you played. You had food stored away, you just gave us husks on purpose. You figured we'd break in a few days and come crawling back. But I'm telling you, without us leeches to drain, your family is only going to get worse. She tried to fight back. Big talk from a girl living in a cow shed. No money, no grain. How are you going to survive winter? The village next door had people starve to death yesterday. If you had any sense, you'd kneel down, apologize, and save your family from dying. I almost laughed myself to tears. If you had any ability at all, you wouldn't need to sell your granddaughter. You're pathetic. You still can't see the truth. Su Rue is a pig-headed fool who'll never pass any exam. You treat him like treasure while throwing away people who actually work. Watch. The first household will blow through that money in no time. And then I want to see what you do. Grandma Lee's face was dripping with sweat after hearing what I said, because the money really was gone. If Landlord Lin came knocking and I still refused to go, how would she pay him back? Would they actually get beaten to death? She threw out one last threat before leaving. You little money loser. Let's see how many days you last. I hope you starve. But I could see her hands shaking as she walked away. All that confidence she'd marched in with was gone. She was scared. My mother's hands were trembling too, but for a different reason. After more than a decade of being the quiet, obedient wife, she'd finally fought back. She'd swung that broom without caring about her reputation, and honestly, she looked like she'd never felt better. I was proud of her. The family blood was finally waking up. This was just the beginning. At lunch, we had another proper meal with meat. Every other family in the village was choking down husks and pickled vegetables with plain corn buns. Our family? Meat every meal. Dad. Junsheng came back from town. Mrs. Liu said he'd come help us build this afternoon. Dad nodded. More hands meant we could get a room up for the three of us girls. We couldn't keep sleeping in a pile forever. Sure enough, after lunch, Ho Junsheng showed up, and he brought his buddy Yen San along, the guy from this morning. When Yen San saw my face up close for the first time, he froze and scratched his head awkwardly. Junsheng just nodded at me as a greeting, then they both went over to help Dad. Neither of them had much experience with manual labor. They stood there holding sticks, looking lost. Yen San stared at Junsheng. This is the fun place you were talking about. Junsheng calmly started copying Dad's movements, smoothing down a piece of wood. This is fun. I'm giving you an early taste of real life. Yen San kept sneaking glances at me, then leaned in toward Junsheng. Honestly, Hemiao is gorgeous. Like a fairy. How much bride price do you think she'd cost? Silence. Why aren't you talking? I knew it, you're into her. That's why you were so eager to come help. If I had any money, I'd want to marry her too. You think she'd like my type? Look at these muscles. Junsheng, through gritted teeth. When you don't speak, nobody thinks you're mute. What? Liking a girl is a crime now. Junsheng, why won't you argue back? Say something. Junsheng barely moved his lips. Because your Uncle Su is standing right behind us. Yen San nearly jumped out of his skin. He spun around, and there was my father, staring at him with eyes that could cut steel. He plastered on the most innocent smile possible and buried himself in work. After Dad walked away, Yen San whispered, "Did you see that look? I think he was about to murder me." Junsheng didn't respond. He was looking at me again. Got so distracted, he almost sliced his hand open. The whole afternoon, his attention was only half on the work. My father wasn't blind. He'd been young once too. He knew exactly what Junsheng was feeling. Decent-looking kid. Steady job as a bookkeeper. Honest character. They'd known the family for years. A good match for me, actually. Only downside was he barely talked. But as long as he treated me well, that didn't really matter. He'd need to ask my opinion though. What if I didn't like the guy? I was crouched by the fire, stuffing kindling under the pot to boil water. Everyone was sweating from the work, even in winter. Young people moved fast. At this rate, the second room would be done before sunset. Dad, drink some water. I poured a bowl for my father first. Junsheng, water. I poured the second bowl for him. Before I could pour a third. What about me? Sister Hemiao, are you playing favorites? Is it because Junsheng is better looking so he gets served first? Or maybe you. His sentence got cut short when Junsheng shoved his own bowl into Yen San's face, clinking against his teeth. It's just water. Stop making a scene. Here, choke on it. I just watched them bicker without saying a word. I wasn't embarrassed at all. I grabbed another bowl from inside, filled it up, and handed it to Yen-san. Junsheng frowned slightly when he saw I'd filled it to the brim. Yen-san smirked at him. I don't need to impress the father-in-law, so why would I kill myself working? But if you don't mind a little competition, I'm happy to show off for Uncle Sue too. I mind, Junsheng said flatly, snatching the axe from Yen-san's hand.
Ah.
There it is. Ho Junsheng, you old fox, you really are after her. Junsheng looked ready to commit murder. If I heard any of this, how would we ever face each other again? Yen-san, one more word, and Uncle Sue's carrying pole will find her backside. Meanwhile, Junsheng caught my father watching them and nervously asked nothing. My father just smiled. You boys doing all right? If you're tired, take a break. We're almost done anyway. Now, Dad asked if they were all right, not if they were tired. For a young man, saying you're tired is fine. But saying you're not all right. Junsheng straightened up immediately.
I'm all right, uncle.
I'm very capable. My father blinked. Very, very capable, Dad. That.